Hey there, and welcome to Weeb Novel Audiobook, your hub for epic fanfics, original stories, and thrilling adventures brought to life. Make sure to subscribe for regular updates and swing by my Patreon for early access and exclusive mature content. Now, sit back and enjoy the journey.
What? He's not teaming up with Mitsuda Musashi for a quick attack. Does he really expect to score by setting to such an inexperienced high school player? Look out! It's heading to the net. The opponent's skill level truly matched that of top professional players. After a brief moment of shock, the three blockers in the front row on the opposing team rushed to intercept Akira with lightning speed. Block. Oikawa, having observed Akira's training matches, knew Akira's spike height was much higher than most high school players. However, against professionals, even an impressive height might not stand out. But Akira's leap defied expectations, leaving everyone in the arena astonished. What just happened with that high schooler? He jumped as high as the three pros across from him. No, he's even slightly higher. I've seen him compete before. His jump height was never this extraordinary. Could it be, he's been holding back in all his previous matches? What? You're kidding. From the E-class victory to the A-class promotion match, wasn't that enough to push him to his limit? The three blockers facing Akira were equally shocked, but there was no time to make adjustments. All three extended their arms as much as possible, desperate to stop Akira's spike. Akira, however, had already spotted the gap between their hands. Wham! A clean, direct spike. Whistly. Point scored. As the ball hit the court, the trio of blockers, led by Ere, exchanged incredulous glances with one another. Are there more monster-level high school players showing up recently? Ere muttered. That spike wasn't just high, it was powerful enough to rival professionals. The rest of the team, who had initially underestimated Akira, started to rethink their assumptions. Until now, they considered Akira just another high schooler, thinking it unlikely for another Ushijima Wakatoshi to emerge from Miyagi Prefecture. But Akira's spike shattered those doubts. His attack was easily on par with Ushijima's. This was the consensus among everyone present. On Akira's side of the court, Mitsuda Musashi and the others were equally dumbfounded. Their strategy to send Akira against Ere was more of a desperate gamble move, hoping for a miracle. Deep down, they thought the odds were nearly zero. Yet, Akira's explosive spike revealed his immense potential. Today's high school players really are something else, Mitsuda Musashi muttered. Damn it, this guy totally stole the spotlight. Oikawa complained, his tone filled with mock jealousy. If I'd known this would happen, I wouldn't have said it to him. All right. Focus up. Ere clapped his hands to snap his team out of their stupor. It's just 1 point. Let's get the next one. Known for his resilience, Ere quickly rallied his teammates. His words brought them back from their initial shock. Game continued. Now it was Akira's turn to serve. His teammates were on alert this time, they anticipated the opponent's counterattack. Slam. The serve began. A wobbling floater sailed toward the edge of the opponent's court. At first glance, it looked like it would go out of bounds. But experienced players knew better a floater like this often dipped sharply at the last moment. The opponent's libero anticipated the movement perfectly, sliding into position and lifting the ball with precision. The opposing setter didn't hesitate, sending the ball to Ere, who was poised to attack. Despite his age, Ere moved with the energy of a younger player. His powerful approach and leap were a testament to his experience. Bang! Ere's spike crashed into Mitsuda Musashi's blocking arms, pushing him backward. The ball rebounded high into the air, giving Akira's team libero enough time to react and save it. Got it, the libero shouted, expertly guiding the ball toward Oikawa. As Oikawa prepared for the next set, Akira, Mitsuda Musashi, and two back row attackers surged forward in unison. A coordinated, synchronous multiplayer attack. The blockers on the opposing side zeroed in on Oikawa, ready to anticipate his pass. But Oikawa's smirk widened mischievously. Now, who should I pass it to? Check out other novels Marvel. I'm in Westview Town Naruto, I'm Ninetales and my host is Kushina. Chapter 24. Chapter 24. Is he really going to set to the high school student who just spiked the ball? Everyone wondered silently in their minds. He only scored once, after all. Maybe they'll change their tactics. While everyone hesitated, the experienced Ere noticed a small movement from Oikawa. Without hesitation, Oikawa jumped straight into the middle of the net. At that moment, Oikawa realized that the opponent had already figured out his second attack. But it was too late to change his approach now. Snap! Ere blocked Oikawa's second attack mid-air. The ball fell at Oikawa's feet. Whistle. The score was now tied. Though my technique might not be as sharp as the younger generation's, I still have some experience, Ere said calmly after landing. It was Ere who had first noticed Oikawa's small movement and jumped to block the attack, evening the score for his team. Seeing his attack blocked, Oikawa didn't show much disappointment. Instead, he quickly adjusted, ready for the next round. And so, the fierce showdown continued. Ere, a former national team player, was demonstrating his incredible strength. The spike from earlier was just a preview of his true abilities. Ere was now ready to give everything, playing like a wild beast on the narrow court. His style was bold, brutal, and reckless, but with countless small details hidden beneath. Even Akira, who had been strong so far, couldn't withstand spike. But Akira understood. It wasn't just about strength, his experience was too vast. Akira learned valuable lessons from his various techniques and blocking methods. Akira's performance was starting to shock everyone. His spike success rate was incredibly high. Whenever Oikawa passed the ball, no matter what kind of block Akira faced, he still managed to score. Even Ere had trouble dealing with Akira's powerful spikes. When it came to blocking, Akira seemed to have an extraordinary instinct, always being the first to anticipate the opposing player's movements. As time passed, Mitsuda Musashi and Toru Oikawa in the front row began following Akira's lead in blocking. And when Akira moved to the back row, his steady receiving and powerful serving skills also caught everyone's attention. Akira was the kind of player who seemed too perfect to be real. There was nothing anyone could target to exploit his weaknesses. Strong. Really strong. I thought this high schooler was at best an A-level player. But now, even among these top players, he's still shining. That's right. Does anyone know which high school he's from? I don't know. But he's not from Shiraiterizawa, is he? I know. He played at Yogama Junior High last year, but I don't know which high school he's at this year. Wait, are you saying he's just a freshman in high school? Is he really this strong as a freshman? Ushijima Wakatoshi, who came here recently, was a third-year student. I heard there was a high school qualifier for the national competition recently. Maybe then we'll find out which school he's from. The game continued, with both sides fiercely battling to hold their scores. As the game reached its peak, the scores were nearly tied at match point. But the situation wasn't looking good for Akira's team. Akira, a KY scoring player, had been moved to the back row. Meanwhile, the opponent's trump card, Ere, was still in the front row. However, it was now Akira's turn to serve. He glanced at the score, 22-23. Just 3 more points, and they could win the game. But if the opponent scored again, Akira's team would be pushed into the opponent's match point. Akira looked at the opponent's back row, noting their positions. In earlier rounds, he had used a jump serve, his preferred method when practicing alone. but in Th's crucial situation, if he used a floating serve with average power, it could easily lead to mistakes and put them in danger. This time, Akira decided to go for a more direct, powerful jump serve. What's going on? This number 3 high schooler's serve doesn't seem like a jump serve. Is he trying to take a risk now that the opponent's ahead? I've never seen him serve like this before. This kind of serve is hard to control. If it goes out of bounds, the opponent gets a point directly. Is he really that bravi? As Akira prepared for the serve, the crowd outside the court erupted into noise. Many were worried about Akira's decision to serve in such an adventurous manner. But Akira ignored the voices from the crowd. He tossed the ball forward. And then, he jumped. He's tossing the ball. It can't be a mistake, right? An audience member outside the venue said nervously. It's over. If this serve results in a fault, then they're in real danger. That's right. The match will go straight to Are's match point. Isn't that to be expected? Honestly, from the start, I didn't think a team of high school students could defeat Are. Exactly. How could a player as strong as Are lose in such a small exhibition match? It was no surprise that the audience felt uneasy. Even Akira's teammates on the court thought his toss might have been a mistake. Not for any other reason but because he tossed the ball too far forward. It's almost at the 3-meter line. This guy has played so well throughout the match, but now he's falling apart at such a critical moment, said Toru Oikawa in the front row. Wouldn't it have been safer to stick to the jump serve you were using earlier? However, just as Oikawa finished speaking, he saw Akira in the back row step forward and leap. Without a hint of hesitation, Akira approached the toss as if this were a standard serve. Seeing this, Are, on the opposite side of the net, narrowed his eyes in surprise. He immediately called out to his teammates in the back row. Stay sharp. Don't let your guard down. Simultaneously, he lowered his body, preparing for the possible impact. On the other side, as Akira jumped, the audience and players on the court were stunned by what they saw. They initially assumed Akira had overestimated his toss and wouldn't be able to reach it in time. But now, the reality was, Akira seemed to glide effortlessly as if a gust of wind had lifted him. Although his jump height wasn't noticeably greater than usual, his hang time in the air was extraordinary. With such impressive hang time, Akira managed to adjust mid-air, positioning himself perfectly to meet the ball. It was as though the entire sequence had been meticulously planned. In mid-air, Akira's body arched like a crescent moon. Before anyone could react, he unleashed a jump serve. Bang! The libero in the back row of the opposing team barely registered the ball flying past him, feeling only a rush of air by his ear. Service ace. What? How is his serve so fast? I didn't even see his arm swing just now. In truth, it was already difficult for spectators to follow the trajectory of spikes during high-level volleyball matches. The ball, when hit by a powerful attacker, can easily reach speeds of over 100 km per hour. Spectators often only see a faint blur before the ball hits the court. However, Akira's serve seemed even faster, like it teleported from his hand to the ground. From the moment his arm swung forward to the instant the ball landed, it was over in the blink of an eye. The referee blew the whistle, signaling the point, another serve for Akira. As Akira held the ball and slowly walked back to the service line, Are's team began to feel the pressure. How do you even receive a serve like that? Stay calm. Don't panic. In such a tense situation, Are stepped up to reassure his teammates. He recalled seeing this type of serve during an international competition. At the time, they faced a team from a smaller country whose middle blocker had an incredible jump serve ability, capable of serving near the 3-meter line. The challenge with such a serve is that, because the server is closer to the net, the ball travels a much shorter distance compared to a typical baseline serve. This means the ball loses less speed during its trajectory, making it harder to react in time. For a libero, this kind of serve is a nightmare to receive. Additionally, there was something even more intimidating about Akira's serve. Was Eri the only one who noticed? He silently studied Akira, standing on the opposite side of the net. The young player's eyes were calm and unfathomable like a deep, bottomless pool. It was impossible to predict his next move. The whistle blew again. After a quick glance at the opposing team's formation, Akira tossed the ball and jumped again. It was the same serve as before. However, this time, Akira aimed at a slightly different spot. One of Eri's teammates, carefully observing Akira's movements, froze as he realized the change. But Akira's serve was too fast. Even if Eri noticed the adjustment, there was no time to react. Bang! The ball slammed into the ground once more. And this time, the entire gymnasium, players and spectators alike, watched with wide eyes, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. The serve landed inside the 3-meter line. Service ace, again. Chapter 25. Chapter 25. At this moment, even Eri was a little unsure. He knew this superb serving technique, a way to serve the ball into the mid-zone between the front and back rows. In this way, since the front and back rows aren't in an ideal position to receive the ball, it becomes extremely difficult to return, often resulting in easy points. Previously, players from smaller volleyball nations had mastered such serving techniques. However, what made Eri feel incredible was that the high school player in front of him had just executed a serve even more outrageous than any he had encountered before. The serve landed straight on the 3-meter attack line. Normally, when facing a powerful jump serve, players preparing to receive in the front row would take a few steps back and get into position. This is because such serves generally don't land too close to the net or attack line. But Akira's serve completely defied expectations, landing sharply inside the 3-meter line. This left the front row players, who had already retreated, completely out of reach to receive the ball. Moreover, Akira's serve wasn't a soft, floating ball. Such a slow ball allows enough time to react, giving the front row players a chance to move forward and receive the serve. But Akira's serve was a high-speed jump serve, fired with an incredibly terrifying velocity. The distance from Akira's spiking position to where the ball landed was less than 10 meters. Within these 10 meters, attempting to receive a fastball traveling over 100 km per hour left a reaction time of only about 0.3 seconds. Under normal circumstances, relying solely on reaction speed, it would be nearly impossible for anyone to receive this kind of serve. To make a proper receive, players would need to depend on both intuition and sheer luck. Eri stared at the slender figure standing on the opposite side of the court. Although Akira appeared calm and composed, there was an aura of immense power emanating from him. At this moment, the score had been completely reversed, 24-23. In other words, it was now match point for Akira's team. If we can handle this next serve, we'll lose the first set. Eri thought, a cold sweat rolling down his forehead. It had been far too long since he had felt such immense pressure. His teammates felt it too, their eyes locked onto Akira, determined to predict his next move. The slender figure, the youthful appearance, and a face that seemed harmless at first glance. Yet the power and precision in Akira's serves were like that of a fierce, unrelenting dragon. A sense of suffocating oppression, like facing a mountain, weighed on them. This serve must be received. Everyone stood poised, their eyes fixed on Akira. They were desperate to predict his serving strategy, hoping to anticipate where the ball would land. Only then would they have a chance to intercept it. Faced with the intense focus of his opponents, Akira remained unfazed, his confidence unshaken. Chirp. The referee's whistle blew, signaling the next serve. Akira approached the serve with ease, taking a strong, confident leap, another powerful jump serve. Over here. Ari's sharp instincts and veteran experience kicked in. At the moment Akira swung his arm, Ari identified the ball's trajectory. Years of dealing with difficult serves gave him an edge, even in such a critical moment. Stretching out his arm, Ari felt the volleyball make contact. "I've got it." But something was wrong. Ari's confidence shattered in an instant. The ball wasn't behaving as expected. It spun fiercely, with an unpredictable trajectory. The audience gasped in surprise as the volleyball deflected wildly and soared into the crowd. Crowd reactions: what just happened? Why couldn't Mr. Ari control that serve? Was it a receiving error? No way. A player of his caliber wouldn't make such a basic mistake. Then, was it the spin? That's right. It's the spin Akira put on the ball. All eyes turned to Akira, standing confidently in his position. Ari, still holding his arm in place, looked up at Akira with a mix of astonishment and admiration. Ari's realization, he slowly smiled and said, "I haven't seen such an interesting player in a long time." His fiery competitive spirit ignited, burning brightly as he faced his formidable opponent. I can't think of it. Ari actually loses in this kind of competition. That's a former national team player. Could it be that Ari's level has regressed? What are you talking about? Why did you start to suspect Ari now? Isn't this just the first set? Ari will definitely turn the game around in the next 2 sets. At halftime, the debate continued. And through the last set, Akira also had his own gains. The first is the growth of ball control and touch. After a series of previous matches and this game, Akira's ball feel had risen to 9.8. Now, Akira was only 0.2 I from reaching a perfect 10 in ball feel. He could already feel that barrier very clearly. As long as he kept playing, he could break through further. Moreover, the quality of this game was exceptionally high. Especially during his confrontations with Ari, Akira learned a lot. As an experienced middle blocker and seasoned player, Ari displayed a seemingly endless arsenal of techniques, from spiking to blocking at the net. Observing Ari, Akira naturally started learning these advanced skills. He gradually adapted and even began to incorporate these techniques into his spiking strategies. The final serve in the first set was his initial attempt to test a new idea. The ball spun rapidly during its flight, yet its trajectory remained unchanged. If the opponent attempted to receive such a serve, the ball's high-speed rotation would cause it to bounce unpredictably off the arm. This made returning it nearly impossible. That last serve was just a prototype. Akira knew he could refine and perfect it further. However, achieving this required even better ball control and feel. Chirp. The referee's whistle blew, signaling the start of the second set. Akira's keen observation and insight came into play again. By the second set, Akira had already found gaps in Ari's tight defense. Not only that, but the defense of the rest of Ari's team became increasingly ineffective against Akira. His spikes consistently landed in the least desirable positions for the opposing team. What's going on? Gradually, Ari realized something was wrong. The power and height of Akira's spikes hadn't noticeably changed, yet they were becoming harder to block and receive. Wait. Ari furrowed his brows, as if a thought struck him. It can't be that kind of extraordinary talent. His pupils widened as memories of a tall figure from his past surfaced. In the world of volleyball, everyone possesses unique talents and abilities. People born with longer Achilles tendons naturally jump higher, while others might have an intuitive grasp of the game. Some players excel at speed, while others have a natural flair for strategy. Similarly, there are those rare individuals with innate volleyball talent. Such people are few and far between, and many may never even realize their potential. Ari once encountered such a player who had maximized their natural talent, becoming nearly invincible. Such players only get stronger with each match, making them formidable opponents. If you end up on the opposite side of the net against them, you'll fail. A growing sense of despair. It's as if every move you make is instantly analyzed and countered. Your weaknesses are immediately exposed and exploited. In the course of a match, they feel like a constricting python, gradually tightening their hold until their opponent can no longer breathe. Eri once believed that such extraordinary talent was a one-in-a-million phenomenon. Yet now, in his home prefecture of Miyagi, another player with that same overwhelming presence had emerged. That familiar sensation would be etched in Eri's memory forever. Eri's gaze shifted back to Akira on the opposite side of the net. He shook off his momentary distraction and refocused on the game. Chirp. The whistle signaled the end of the second set, which was even more intense than the first. Both sides pushed the score past 30 points. Ultimately, Akira's devastating spike secured the set, bringing his team the win. Crowd reactions. Even though I expected this outcome, it's still unbelievable to see it happen. Eri, losing a match. I can't wrap my head around it. It's incredible to think that such talented high school players are emerging here in Miyagi Prefecture. That's right. Don't forget Ushijima Wakatoshi, who's been dominating the court recently. The upcoming high school league is going to be a battle of giants. I can't miss it for the world. As the crowd discussed excitedly, someone unexpected approached Akira, surprising him. Chapter 26, Inter-High Tournament Eri. Seeing the appearance of the person coming, Akira said in surprise. At the same time, he bowed politely forward. Thank you for this game. Eri was silent for a moment, then bowed. He looked at Akira in front of him and said, You're strong. This year's national competition, there must be a place for you. After saying that, Eri turned and left. What? What exactly did Mr. Eri mean by that? Is Eri so optimistic about him? Among their opponents is a strong school like Shiratorizawa. That's a strong school that can stabilize the top 8 in the national competition. Yes. Shiratorizawa's ace, Wakatoshi Ushijima, is the high school student who went to the S level here before. Could it be that in Mr. Eri's opinion, he is stronger than Ushijima? It can't be. After all, Ushijima is a third-year student, and he seems to be only a first-year student. How can he be Ushijima's opponent? Just as Eri was about to leave, Oikawa, who was standing on the side, also approached Akira. With a joking expression, he essayed to Akira, Don't take that guy's words too seriously. Maybe you won't even be able to get out of the group stage, and you'll be eliminated by Rao Bajosai. Then he also left with a smug smile. Watching these two people leave from his side one after another, Akira shook his head with a smile. No matter what others say, his mentality would not be affected in any way. Eri's admiration or Oikawa's provocation he wouldn't take either to heart. Akira only trusted his own hands. No matter whether the future opponent is strong or weak, his own strength is always the most important. Then, Akira also turned around and left. There was still a lot waiting for him. The priority now was to quickly increase his ball sense to 10. 3 days later, Karasuno High GH School, Volleyball Hall. In other words, why haven't you seen Akira come to train in the past few weeks? During the lunch break after training, Hinata asked curiously. That's right, he hasn't come to school these days. Do any of you know where he went? It can't be that he's sick, right? Just as everyone was discussing Akira's situation, they suddenly heard a familiar voice at the door of the gym. Long time no see, everybody. Everyone turned their heads in unison and saw a familiar figure coming from outside the gym. Akira. Akira-kun. You're finally back. We were just talking about you, and then you showed up. Have you been recuperating at home? Are you feeling better now? Listening to the questions of his teammates one after another, Akira couldn't help but smile bitterly and waved his hand. "Thank you for your concern, but I wasn't sick. I just found an interesting place and played with people there all the time." "What?" Hinata asked with bright eyes. "Where were you playing? Where is it? Don't think about it for now." Suddenly, there was a voice outside the door. Everyone looked over and saw Kaishin Yokai and Takeda Itatsu walking into the gym. Kaishin, who was walking at the front, seemed to be in a good mood. He said to Hinata, "Wait until you get a little stronger. That place is not somewhere you can go right now." "Why?" Hinata asked, a little unconvinced, while the others pricked up their ears, curious to hear what Kaishin would say. "Haha. Because if you went there you'd just get crushed. When you have half of Akira's strength, I'll let you take a look." Kaishin walked over and patted Hinata's shoulder with a big smile. Then, Kaishin turned his gaze to Akira as though meeting him for the first time. "What's Renji, coach?" Akira asked, a little unsettled by Kaishin's fiery gaze. "Haha. Akira, I went to watch your matches these past few days." Kaishin's eyes glowed as he looked at Akira. "When I first heard your name, I thought it was just someone with the same name as you. I knew your strength was extraordinary before, but I didn't expect it. It's just a fluke." Akira smiled bitterly, interrupting Kaishin's words with a wave of his hand. Seeing that he still wanted to say more, Akira hurriedly added, "Coach, the lunch break is about to end. I haven't trained with the team for several days, so I need to focus on working with my teammates. Otherwise, if there's a problem with coordination during the game, it'll be bad." Kaishin rubbed his chin, thou ght for a moment, and said, "That's true. Then everyone, make the most of these 2 days to practice your teamwork. The day after tomorrow is our first game. I hope everyone can perform well by then. Yes. Underscore 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 dollar 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 underscore 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 dash." Just the day before Akira returned to the Karasuno Volleyball Club. Miyagi Arena. Come on. 2 more points to win. Win this game. The cheers rose from wave to wave. Since the last time he won head-on against Ere, Akira had gradually accumulated some fans in the Miyagi Arena. Now he had a lot of people watching every game. It's unbelievable. After coming to Group A, this high school student can actually maintain win streak. I thought this high school student was just a low-level player. I didn't expect him to win consecutive games after coming to Group A. In this way, he will have no pressure to advance to Group S. I think so too. It seems that our stadium is going to produce another S-class player. Unlike the ease off the field, Akira on the court was at a critical moment. At this moment, he felt pressure like never before. But Akira was not nervous because he understood, this was when a breakthrough was about to be made. Boom! Snapping the final crucial ball felt like breaking through a layer of shackles bound to his body. A barrier in his mind seemed to shatter in that instant. There was a clear stream that seemed to flow out of his head and spread through his whole body. When Akira opened his eyes again, he found that the world in his view seemed a little different. The hustle and bustle of the audience, the teammates around him, and the fierce match in the distance all seemed to slow down for a moment, then return to normal. But not completely normal. Only the ball in Akira's eyes had changed. In his EYES, the route and trajectory of each ball seemed clearly distinguishable. Picking up the volleyball next to him felt as if it were connected to his own blood. Gently tossing and catching the ball again, Akira felt he could accurately control every inch of the trajectory after hitting it. He knew exactly where to hit, how to use it, the angle to exert force, and which muscles in his hand to engage. This feeling of control made Akira very obsessed. But he didn't dwell on this feeling for long. Instead, Haikyuu came back to his senses. Now that his ball sense had reached 10, he was confident that he could master this feeling and develop his own unique spiking technique. The first day of the qualifying league, Miyagi Prefecture, Sendai City Gymnasium. Hurry up! Hurry up! Today is the first day of the competition, so don't be late. Daichi walked at the front of the line, shouting at Tanaka, who was still sleepy-eyed. Daichi senpai, don't worry. We still have 3 hours before our match starts. Even so, don't be sluggish. We need to warm up and prepare properly. Walking in the large square at the gymnasium entrance, the Karasuno team formed a long line. I heard that this year's Aoba Josai is very strong. With Oikawa promoted to the 3rd year, their strength seems to have increased a lot. What's the use of that? Shirei Darizawa is still in the mix. In other words, this year's Group A is really the group of death. Aoba Josai and Date Tech are both in the same group. It seems the qualifying spots will only come from those two teams. That's right. The rest of Group A is in for a rough time. Every year, they're just there to make up the numbers. Fortunately, we didn't get placed in Group A. The square was buzzing with teams scattered around, discussing the year's tournament. Huh? What's that team in black uniforms? Karasuno High School. Wait, I think I recognize them. They used to be really strong and even made it to nationals. But in recent years, they've fallen off a bit. Yeah, they've even earned the title, the Fallen Champions, the Flightless Crows. Hearing this, Tanaka, who was barely awake, instantly perked up and prepared to confront the ones talking. But before he could act, an exclamation rose from the crowd. Wait, isn't that him? Who? Why are you so excited? Last year's Junior High League, the ace of Yugima Middle School. The guy who eliminated us. I heard he's an international student. His name is Akira. What? He's here? Which school is he playing for? Shirei Darizawa. No. He's at Karasuno. At that moment, the attention of the crowd shifted to Karasuno. He went to that school? I thought someone as strong as him would definitely choose Shirei Darizawa. I heard Karasuno is also in Group A. This Juice Tea makes the situation in Group A even more unpredictable. It can't be. No matter how strong he is, he alone can't change Group A's outcome. That's Aoba Josai and Date Tech we're talking about. Maybe, but don't forget how we were defeated by him last year. Ugh. I'll get my revenge on him sooner or later. Really? How do I remember you crying on the court during the game? Non-stop tears. Hey, shut up about that. Under the watchful eyes of awe or defiance, Karasuno's team stepped into Sendai City Gymnasium. Let me know if there are any mistakes. Chapter 27, Inter-High Tournament, 2, it's Date Tech. Walking through the corridor of the gymnasium, a group of players in gray-green uniforms appeared in front of Karasuno. On their C-hests, 3 bold characters spelled Date Tech. Leading the group was a fierce-looking man with short white hair and no eyebrows. As the two teams crossed paths, he suddenly raised his arm and pointed directly at Asahi, who was at the front. The atmosphere instantly turned tense. Hey! Aone, what are you doing again? A senior-looking player rushed over from the rear of Date Tech's group. Seeing the white-haired man's actions, he quickly grabbed his arm with an exasperated look. Then, nervously, he apologized to everyone in Karasuno. I'm sorry. Hey, help me out here. The senior struggled to pull Aone back, clearly finding it difficult. He quickly called for backup from his teammates. Haha. Sorry. This guy has a bad habit, he always has to point at the ace when he sees one. Futakuki added with a cheeky grin. So. You guys better be ready this time. With that, Date Tech turned and left. What the? Are they the Date Tech that beat our school before? Hinata asked, running up to Teehee front. That's right, Sugawara replied solemnly. Their wall-like defense is absolutely impenetrable. Then, glancing at Asahi, who looked stiff with nerves, Sugawara said, I just hope you don't overthink like last time. And no. I won't. Asahi stammered, snapping out of his daze. Why is everyone looking at me? Isn't it Akira the ace of our team now? You should be worried about him. Hearing this, everyone rolled their eyes. Sugawara pointed toward Akira, who was chatting and laughing with Kyoko on the other side, completely oblivious to what was happening. Akira's mindset isn't as fragile as yours. He doesn't need anyone to worry about him. It's you we need to keep an eye on. Get yourself together. As Karasuno entered the venue and began warming up, another group made their way toward the gymnasium. Leading the group was Aoba Josai's coach, Nobutaru Irihata, accompanied by their teacher, Mizuguchi Sadaoki. Let's see how Karasuno is doing again this year. Irihata said eagerly. THAT quick attack combo and that insanely talented first-year student ace. Yes. Mizuguchi agreed. While walking, Irihata noticed something amiss. Huh? Where's Oikawa? What happened to him? The coach looked back, puzzled. He was just here when we got off the bus. A team member scratched the back of his head awkwardly. About that. What's wrong? Out with it? Mizuguchi demanded. He's outside, surrounded by girls from other schools. Hearing this, Irihata and Mizuguchi's faces fell. They knew this happened often with Oikawa. No matter how many times he was reprimanded, he always ended up in the same situation. Iwaizumi. Everyone at Aoba Josai knew that only Iwaizumi Hajime could keep Oikawa in check. Yes. Without needing further explanation, Iwaizumi strode off. Moments later, a volleyball hit Oikawa in the back of the head. Oikawa turned around angrily, but upon seeing Iwaizumi's glare, he immediately sulked and obediently followed him away from the crowd of admirers. The vast stadium echoed with the sound of players warming up. As Aoba Josai walked past, Hinata's sharp eyes spotted them. Huh? That onion head. Kinda itchy, confused, asked, huh? Who are you calling onion head? Haha, who else? Kunami smirked mischievously. Hey, Hinata. Kageyama. Oikawa's voice rang out as he waved mockingly at the Karasuno duo below. Are you two still perfecting your monster combo? Then, turning to Akira, he added with a sly grin, and you, Akira. Don't cry when we eliminate you later. Underscore 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 dash you better worry about yourself first. For such a bad character as Oikawa, Akira was already used to it. Oh? Oikawa, do you know him? In the audience, Coach Irihata of Aoba Josai, who was already seated, asked curiously. At the same time, the rest of Aoba Josai also looked at Oikawa. After all, in the previous practice match, Akira's powerful spikes were still fresh in their memories. Now everyone in Aoba Josai wanted to know more about Akira. At this time, Oikawa didn't have his usual Friday volity. Instead, he spoke with a serious tone, saying to his teammates, I met him at the Miyagi Arena 2 days ago. Oh. Coach Irihata was immediately intrigued. Did he go to that place too? Did you see him play there? As Aoba Josai's coach and an experienced volleyball strategist, Coach Irihata was very familiar with Miyagi Arena. Even Oikawa had gone there to play early in his career under his guidance. It's not just seeing him play. Oikawa shook his head, his expression thoughtful. I played with him in the same match. Really? Coach Irihata asked in surprise. Your rating there is at least A. Did he play at that level too? It's not just about playing at an A-grade level. Oikawa said, his voice steady but tinged with amazement. In the period after the practice match, he's gotten a lot stronger. I feel like he might be on par with Ushijima. Even, maybe a little stronger. What? Oikawa's words hit the Aoba Josai team like a thunderclap. Everyone present was familiar with Ushijima's overwhelming strength. As an opponent they had faced in numerous matches, they knew his sheer dominance on the court. But now Oikawa was claiming that Akira, the first-year ace of Karasuno, was on the same level as Ushijima? But, he's only in his first year. Matsukawa said in disbelief. Strength has nothing to do with what year you're in. Oikawa glanced at him and shook his head. Strong is strong. The same kind of spike as Ushijima. Coach Irihata muttered solemnly. This means we'll have to revise our strategy for the group stage. Coach Irihata and assistant coach Mizuguchi exchanged glances, both sharing the same concern about the upcoming matches. Match time. The warm-up was over. With the sound of the coach's whistle, Karasuno's first match in the qualifiers was about to begin. Their opponent was a relatively obscure school Tokonami. However, Daiichi mentioned he had a classmate from junior high on that team. Everyone, pay attention. Try to observe their tactics. Coach Irihata loudly reminded the Aoba Josai players from the stands. Karasuno might be our toughest opponent in this group stage. The team hardly needed reminding. After hearing Oikawa's earlier assessment, they were on high alert. On the court the match began, and Akira quickly demonstrated his incredible skills. Every spike he delivered seemed to cut through the air with precision, effortlessly bypassing the opponent's blockers. For Tokonami, picking up Akira's spikes came at the cost of losing 4 to 5 points for every one they barely managed to touch. An ordinary volleyball in Akira's hands seemed almost alive, as if guided by some invisible force. He hit every ball with the perfect angle and power, leaving no opportunity for counterattacks. It's like watching a miracle unfold, Sugawara muttered from the sidelines, awestruck. In the stands, Oikawa watched with growing unease. A drop of sweat slid down his temple as he observed Akira's movements. It's not just raw power. Oikawa murmured to himself. There's precision, timing, and control. Looking around, he noticed his teammates were equally transfixed by Akira's performance. This isn't the same Akira I faced at the Miyagi Arena, Oikawa thought, gritting his teeth. Did he not go all out when playing against me? Or, has he gotten this much better in just a few days? Oikawa's mind raced as he continued to analyze Akira's form and technique. Meanwhile, on the court, Akira's dominance was undeniable. With the referee's whistle signaling the end of the match, Karasuno emerged victorious. However, in the audience, Aoba Josai's players and coaches knew this was only the beginning. Their true test would come when they faced Karasuno directly in the group stage. Chapter 28, Chapter 28, Inter-High Tournament, 3, Akira was not the only one who shone on the court. During his time away from the Karasuno Volleyball Club training at the Miyagi Arena, the rest of the Karasuno team didn't waste their time either. In fact, compared to Akira's hellish, non-stop games, the training led by Kageyama and Hinata wasn't any easier. They worked relentlessly on uphill sprints, precise ball control, spikes, and receive drills. The previously reckless quick attack by Kageyama and Hinata, which relied solely on Kageyama's control and Hinata closing his eyes, had now evolved. Hinata had started keeping his eyes open, giving him greater control over his smashes, although it slightly reduced the speed. However, this enriched the variety of their attacks. What once was pure instinct now involved calculated thinking, a leap forward in their play style. Additionally, Tsukishima's blocking improved, Tanaka's spikes became sharper, and Nishinoya's defensive skills showed marked progress. Hard work never betrays, and their sweat was paying off. Hinata's dedication, in particular, stood out, and his efforts bore fruit. The fierce competition continued. Despite Tokonami, an obscure opponent school, putting up a fight, Karasuno's dominance left no room for resistance. They easily defeated Tokonami 2-0, moving forward with ease. Even though they lost, Tokonami didn't falter in spirit. They played with grit and showed their tenacity, traits that would undoubtedly lead to progress in the future. That was a waste of time, Kindaichi grumbled in the stands. Akira didn't even need to exert half his strength, and they won so easily. We didn't learn anything from watching that match. Who's their next opponent? Kunimai asked, still observing the field. It's Date Tech, he replied with newfound interest. Hearing this, Kindaichi's eyes lit up. Perfect. Since we're playing after them, we can watch how they handle Date Tech's famous blocking. Coach Irihata chimed in, you can watch for a while, but don't forget our game is right after theirs. Prepare yourselves and stay focused. Only by winning can we move forward. Yes, coach. Some teams celebrated, while others lamented. By the afternoon, several matches were underway, with only one team from Miyagi advancing to nationals. For Karasuno and Date Tech, preparations for their upcoming match were intense. Karasuno's locker room was tense. Memories of their loss to Date Tech 3 months ago still lingered, especially for second and third-year players. Asahi, who had been particularly shaken by that defeat, still bore the weight of the past. Cheer up. Nishinoya stood up, his bold voice breaking the silence. We've got nothing to worry about. Everyone just needs to focus on their roles. I'll cover the back. The room stayed silent, prompting Nishinoya to mutter, not working, huh? No, Nishinoya, it's just Chigawara started, but Nishinoya's attention had already shifted. Akira. Nishinoya called out suddenly. You've played against a team like Date Tech before, haven't you? What's your advice? All eyes turned to Akira, who had been sitting quietly, focused on his phone. Slightly startled, he looked up to see his teammates waiting for an answer. Date Tech. Akira said, a calm smile forming. They're nothing to worry about. Everyone leaned in closer as he continued, teams that rely heavily on blocking tend to see it as their greatest weapon. But that also makes it their greatest weakness. Break through their blocks, and their confidence crumbles. He paused, letting his words sink in before adding, when their strongest asset fails, they start doubting themselves. If that doubt isn't corrected quickly, it turns into a complete mental breakdown. A mysterious smile played on Akira's lips. Kageyama, for this match, give me a normal height set. Directly awakened by Akira's words, everyone suddenly realized. However, when they heard Akira's last words, they were taken aback. Why? Super high spike, isn't it your weapon? Why tie your hands and feet? Daichi asked, puzzled. The others agreed. Isn't the point of Akira's high spikes to bypass the opponent's block? That would render their blocking ineffective and also damage their confidence, perfectly matching Daichi's earlier tactics. Nope. Akira shook his head at their questioning expressions and continued, just bypassing the block won't destroy their confidence at all. Only by defeating their strongest block head-on can we make them doubt themselves. When the strongest iron wall they are proud of crumbles like a piece of paper that breaks at a touch, the psychological gap is something they won't be able to handle. SHHH. A collective gasp filled the small lounge. Everyone's gaze on Akira gradually turned strange. Huh? Akira, noticing something wrong, looked up and asked, confused, why are you all looking at me like that? Tanaka, from the back, replied with a faint expression, I thought I was the worst guy in all of Karasuno. But compared to you, Akira, I feel like I'm still a lot better. What? Akira exclaimed helplessly. We're just talking about tactics here. This is my tactic, and it's absolutely effective. Of course, we don't doubt your tactics, Sugawara said, walking over and patting Akira on the shoulder with a strange look. But sunny and kind Akira, coming up with such black-hearted tactics. Sugawara hesitated before finally saying, it's really inhuman. The entire lounge erupted in laughter, and the earlier tension vanished. Afternoon as the game approached, the atmosphere in the vast stadium grew tense. Listen up, LLED Date Tech Supervisor, currently cheering on his team. Karasuno's quick attacks are amazing, but that's only because of that guy's height advantage. Sure, his jumps are insane, but their quick attacks are ordinary. Don't be deceived by appearance. As long as we shut down their quick attack, the rest of the team poses no threat. Like always, hold that iron wall strong. Show them the strength of Date Tech. Yes, the team roared. The stage was set for Karasuno versus Date Tech, with everyone ready to face the iron wall once again. The game begins. The whistle blew, signaling the end of warm-ups. Both teams gathered on their respective sides. Let's play a good game. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Date Tech, the Date Tech supporters chanted loudly. In contrast, Karasuno's supporters were sparse, with only a few fans cheering them on. At that moment, a group of uncles arrived in the audience, chatting animatedly. Just made it? I almost missed the game. Late again. We already missed a match earlier. Well, the morning game was against a weak team, right? Karasuno crushed them without breaking a sweat. True. Those games are boring anyway. Humph. Honestly, I shouldn't have come this afternoon either. Fighting Date Tech? This will probably be just like the morning match, one uncle said dismissively. You're wrong, another countered. Date Tech is still a strong team, even though the groupings this year weren't favorable for them. And don't forget, Karasuno's spiker might be something special. Well, I guess we'll see, the bald uncle muttered, settling into his seat. This group of belated spectators wasn't just anyone, they were fans Akira had won over during his earlier matches in Miyagi. While they debated in the stands, Aobajosai's Koach Nobutaru Irihata and instructor Sadayuki Mizuguchi quietly entered the arena. Just in time, it seems the game is about to begin. Chapter 29, Chapter 29, Date Tech-O? Is that main spiker named Akira standing in the front row in the initial round? Coach Irihata looked at the situation on the field and rubbed his chin thoughtfully. I kind of understand what Karasuno is thinking. It's really cruel. Oh. Hearing this, Mizuguchi Sadayuki's eyes widened as he carefully stared at the situation on the court. However, he couldn't see anything unusual. Haha. Mizuguchi, you'll figure it out by watching. Coach Irihata patted him on the shoulder with a smile. In the first set, it was Date Tech who served. Thwack. Date Tech's sharp jump serve was eye-catching, but it was easily received by Nishinoya in the back row. It was clear his receiving skills had improved significantly. Kageyama. Taking a few steps back, Akira smiled and called for Kageyama to set the ball. Without hesitation, Kageyama understood Akira's intent and sent a high ball in front of the net. Although the ball trajectory was high, it was clear that the final drop point was low near the net, a perfect position for a typical attacker. A predictable set. The Date Tech coach, Oiwake, pumped his fist in excitement. The first ball blatantly exposes their target. And it's a first-year rookie attacking. Exactly. The team manager, Mai, added enthusiastically. A ball like this Ione can easily stop it. In the face of Date Tech's iron wall, Karasuno dares to challenge? How arrogant. Meanwhile, Mizuguchi Sadayuki outside the court muttered nervously, Kageyama's pass seems off. Isn't Akira best known for his towering, impossible to block spikes? That's Karasuno's weapon against Date Tech's blocks. This could go badly. But Coach Irihata just smiled knowingly. Keep watching, he said. Kryook. The squeak of sneakers echoed on the court. Without unnecessary movements, Akira began his approach the moment Kageyama sent the ball. Seeing Akira in action, Date Tech's front row comprising Ione, Futakuka, and Yasushi Kamasaki moved immediately to block him. Their tall frames moved with incredible speed, preparing to jump and create their iron wall. As Akira jumped, The Date Tech trio rose simultaneously, forming an impenetrable barrier. The iron wall of Date Tech was indeed a sight to behold, high, wide, and seemingly unbreakable. Every possible angle for Akira's spike was completely sealed. An airtight wall stood before him, not a ray of sunlight breaking through. Watching this, Coach Irihata shook his head slightly and murmured to himself, an iron wall, depends on who it's facing. Despite the intimidating wall, Akira smiled slightly. Pulling his arms back like a drawn bow, he prepared to unleash his attack. Boom! There were no flashy tricks. The ball shot straight toward Ione's blocking arms like a meteor crashing to earth. The volleyball tore through the air with a sharp hiss. The impact was so immense that Ione's arms were blasted aside. An unstoppable force. The power of the spike flipped Ione's strong frame backward, sending him crashing to the ground. The ball struck the wooden floor with such force it deformed momentarily before rebounding high and flying into the crowd. Silence. Then, the realization hit. Oiwake leapt from his seat in shock. Impossible. No way. How could this happen? Mai, standing beside him, pinched her own thigh in disbelief. This can't be real, tweet. The referee's whistle blew, breaking the stunned silence. Karasuno wins the first point. Ione. Ione, are you okay? Finally regaining their composure, the Date Tech players rushed to check on Ione. Concern etched their faces, but an undercurrent of unease lingered in their eyes. That spike. What in the world was it? This. Mizuguchi looked at the situation on the court, dumbfounded. Recalling what he had just said, his face turned slightly red. Immediately, he turned to Coach Irihata on the sidelines and said admiringly, Coach Irihata, you must have foreseen this situation. It seems I still have much to learn. Ahem. Irihata coughed lightly, concealing the shock in his eyes. It's okay, Mizuguchi. Recognizing that you still have room to grow shows you're already good enough. Don't be too hard on yourself. In truth, Coach Irihata had initially understood Karasuno's tactical plan. However, he hadn't anticipated that when executed by Akira, the effect would be so devastating. Date Tech's famed iron wall looked like paper before him. Is this really the Date Tech known as the Iron Wall? Disappointed murmurs echoed from the audience. It looks like that. How did he manage to spike through so easily? Several seasoned volleyball fans from the Miyagi Arena shook their heads in disbelief. I don't think Date Tech is weak, it's that he is way too strong. Exactly. They're a top-tier team with the Iron Wall title for a reason. That kid could probably break through a professional player's block. It's no surprise he's doing this here. Meanwhile, Ione on the court slowly stood up. I just lost my footing and fell. No injuries. Hearing this, Date Tech's players sighed in relief. On the other side of the net, Akira also let out a breath of relief. If his first spike had injured an opponent, it would have been troublesome. In truth, Date Tech's iron wall wasn't as formidable as Akira had imagined. He hadn't even used his full strength and still broke through the blockers in the front row with ease. Now, the Date Tech players stared at Akira across the net like they were seeing a monster. But the referee's whistle quickly brought them back to reality. The game resumed. Karasuno's serve fell to Hinata, who easily sent it back. Daiteku entered with a spike, but Karasuno's blockers deflected it. Nishinoya quickly picked up the ball in the back row. Without hesitation, Kageyama set the ball for Akira once more. Not again. The three front row blockers from Daitech tightened their defense. That last spike, it had to be a fluke, right? They had faced Ushijima Wakatoshi from Shirei Darizawa before. While they'd struggled against his spikes, it had never felt this hopeless. This opponent seemed indifferent to their efforts, as if thinking, block or not, I'll always score. The Daitech blockers had no time to strategize further. Seeing Akira leap, they gritted their teeth and jumped together. This time, we'll stop him. Boom. But the reality was harsh. The difference in skill was too vast to overcome through sheer effort. The sound of the volleyball hitting the court echoed again. The same outcome. The iron wall was breached once more. This is brutal. Some spectators sighed in pity. Yet, the excitement in their eyes betrayed their true feelings. They were loving every second of this display of skill. The whistle blew again. This time, Daitech called a timeout. Despite the score only being 2-0, for a team known for its blocking prowess, the psychological blow was immense. On the sidelines, Coach Oiwake looked at his dejected players. Even Maniwa, their usually optimistic captain, was silent. The coach sighed. With just 2 points, it was clear they were being outclassed. 1 point could be a coincidence. But after witnessing Karasuno's confidence and Akira's power, Oiwake realized the truth: their iron wall was no match for Akira's spikes. Just a first year. He muttered to himself. Breaking the silence, he cleared his throat and addressed his players firmly. We've faced opponents much stronger than Karasuno before. Are you really going to let just 2 points shake you? That kid's spikes might be powerful, but they're physically draining. How many more can he pull off before wearing himself out? So don't give up. Keep your heads up. When he rotates to the back row, we'll take the chance to fight back. We're still the iron wall. The impenetrable iron wall. Encouraged by his words, the Daitech players began to recover their confidence. Coach is right. Maniwa stepped forward, rallying his team. We can't let a minor setback stop us. Even if we can't stop him this time, there will be another chance. The iron wall isn't just a barrier, it's a symbol of our unyielding spirit. Yeah. The players' eyes lit up with determination. If we can't block him now, we'll block him later. Once his stamina runs out, we'll turn the tide. Good. Oiwake said with satisfaction. Let's get back out there. Chapter 30, Chapter 30 Daitech, who returned to The Field, began to change their strategy. They switched from a head-on collision to a strategy of dragging things out. Since there is no way to stop Akira's spike head-on, they planned to drag it out until his physical strength was exhausted. Could it be that the rest of Karasuno would also have that kind of powerful spike? No kidding, that's simply impossible. Daitech's wishful thinking was very loud. Akira, however, sensed their intentions but just smiled slightly and didn't care. When he played at Miyagi Arena, his highest record was 8 consecutive matches in one day. Even with that kind of high-intensity competition, his physical strength didn't get exhausted. Now, Daitech's careful thinking was destined to be disappointed. At the same time, the players of Aobajosai gradually came to the field, ready to start warming up. The current situation is, well, just as expected, one-sided. Bang! Another powerful spike. Akira directly hit the opponent's blocking and scored another point. Oikawa, who was walking at the forefront, said somewhat sullenly, I really want to see that guy embarrassed. A genius who makes people angry. Smack. Iwaizumi, who was on the side, slapped the back of Oikawa's head. Instead of complaining here, let's think about how we are going to target his spike tomorrow. It hurts. IWHN. On the other side of the audience. What's going on? What is Date Tech even doing? This kind of spike, they should just hand it over to the back row. An uncle said bitterly, obviously, the spike can't be blocked, yet they're still trying to block it head on. They can't even cushion properly. The consequence of this is that the trajectory of the spike is disturbed by the net, causing the person receiving the ball in the back row to have no idea where the spike will land. This kind of spike can't be picked up by anyone. I think they're trying to drag things out. Drag until that brat runs out of energy, and then they can reverse the score. The uncle sitting in the mid-DLE said with some uncertainty. Hearing his words, several other uncles present couldn't help but exchange strange looks. Then, they all shook their heads together. Alas! Oh, these young men. I have to say, being naive is a little cute. They're still too inexperienced. Some of them had played on the field with Akira, and some had watched him for an entire day. They naturally understood Akira's monstrous physical strength. Hey! You see, that kid is already targeting Date Tech's tactics. Suddenly, a uncle pointed to the situation on the field and shouted. Huh? This. Several uncles who had come to watch the game were startled and looked toward the field together. Akira had just noticed the flaws in the opponent's blind blocking. He began to consciously weaken the force of his spike, no longer blindly using his powerful spike. Instead, he adjusted the force of his spikes, using the opponent's net to alter the angle and send the ball to a more difficult position. Alas! It's that terrifying insight and execution again, as if it has become his instinct. No matter what the opponent does, it can't escape his eyes. It's really enviable. How does he control the ball so finely? It almost feels fake. Yeah. I didn't see him use this at Miyagi Arena before. Could it be? Several people looked at each other again and said in unison, was he holding back when he was playing there? A look of disbelief flashed in the eyes of several people. A high-level game that ordinary people struggle to stay in with all their strength, but Akira could still retain his energy in the kind of top-tier match. What a monster! So how strong is he when he's fully exerting himself? I really want to see it. After Akira made this adjustment, his scoring efficiency increased dramatically. But this also gave Date Tech a glimmer of hope. The intensity of his spike is decreasing. This was something the three people in the front row had experienced. Kamasaki and Futakuki exchanged a look first, and they both saw the joy in each other's eyes. Moreover, the Karasuno's number 7 would soon be transferred to the back row. After enduring so many humiliating and losing points, could they finally see the light of day? At this moment, the entire Date Tech team was like they had been injected with adrenaline, full of energy. Akira, who was on the other side of the net, also noticed the change in the other team. With just a little thought, he knew the reason for the change in their behavior. Akira chuckled, looked at the excited PE Opal from Date Tech, and said to himself, huh. Sometimes, it's not scary to fail. But after seeing hope, and then experiencing despair, it'll make people collapse. Whistle. With a mistake in Karasuno's back row, the serve returned to Date Tech. This time, the players from Date Tech were visibly excited. If we can take this point, we'll hold out until Karasuno's number 7 rotates to the back row. Without much effort, the ball sent over was easily received by Karasuno. Moments later, it was Akira again who scored with another powerful spike. Whistle. Serve change. It was now Akira's turn to serve. This time he used normal serve instead of jump serve. Huh? Why isn't he using his powerful jump serve? It's normal, isn't it? Someone responded. Even in other matches, unless the team was in a tough spot, he rarely used it, another added. Maybe we'll get to see that kind of serve when they face Shirei Terizawa. Kageyama. After sending the ball over, Akira turned toward Kageyama in the back. Huh. Back row attack. What? Kageyama's eyes widened in disbelief. Akira smiled slightly. Strike while the iron is hot. If we give them time to recover, the effect won't be as strong. Tsukishima also listened their conversation, but, can you really deliver that insane spike from the back row? Tsukishima asked skeptically. Yet Tanaka asked. No problem, responded Akira. Before anyone could respond further, Day-Tech launched their attack. Smack. Akira picked up the ball with a sidestep and passed it to Kageyama near the net. Here it comes. The Day-Tech blockers, including Aone, Futakuka and their captain Maniwa, immediately got into position and started thinking. Who will it be? Is it that number 10 or maybe the glasses guy, or is it that previous ace? Stay tight at the net. Watch the setter's moves closely. However, Kageyama didn't set the ball to anyone in the front row. Instead, back row attack. What? Seeing the ball path, the blocker's eyes widened as Akira leaped in the back row. I don't believe he can still spike with that power from the back row. Despite their disbelief, Aone and Futakuka jumped to block. Be ready, just in case. Futakuka yelled. Don't let him through this time. Maniwa shouted. But the result was the same. Akira delivered the same devastating spike. The blockers felt their arms nearly give way under the force of the ball. Whistle. Karasuno scored another point. How is this possible? Coach Oiwake, watching from the sidelines, stood up in shock. Isn't he exhausted? His spikes in the front row were losing power earlier. How can he still pull off such a spike from the back row? Is he pushing himself too hard? No. That's not it, Oiwake muttered as realization dawned. His face turned pale. In the audience, haha. Day-Tech looks completely rattled by Karasuno's no 7. Who gets tired and doesn't even show it? That kid didn't even bother pretending. Day-Tech actually fell for that. When Akira crushed Day-Tech's iron wall a nth time, their morale visibly crumbled. Their once solid blocking coordination started breaking down, and it became harder for them to keep up with Karasuno's pace. Taking advantage of the situation, Hinata, Tanaka, Tsukishima, and others rotated in, delivering strong spikes one after another. Day-Tech's morale hit rock bottom. Karasuno easily secured the first set without much effort. There's just no way to stop Karasuno right now, kinda itchy muttered as he warmed up on the adjacent court. Even Day-Tech, with their iron wall defense, can't hold up. It would take everything we have just to compete with them, he said, sounding a little helpless. Oikawa, standing nearby, frowned. We'll need a solid strategy for tomorrow's game. At halftime, Day-Tech's bench was unusually quiet. You all played well, Coach Oiwake finally said, breaking the silence. This loss wasn't due to mistakes or errors on your part. It's simply because the opponent is incredibly strong. Even so, the team remained quiet, the weight of their struggle evident in their expressions. Oiwake sighed. Day-Tech had faced opponents capable of breaking their iron wall before, like Ushijima Wakatoshi from Shirei Terizawa. But this time, the situation felt far grimmer than ever before. Chapter 31, Chapter 31 Ushijima Wakatoshi's spike, although equally powerful. But who is Ushijima Wakatoshi? He is the ace and main attacker of Shirei Terizawa Academy, rated as one of the top 3 strongest high school volleyball players in all of Japan. Leading Shirei Terizawa to the top 8 of the national competition for 2 consecutive years, he is a powerhouse that any team must be prepared to face. Naturally, Day-Tech was mentally prepared for him. Because their expectations were already high, it was not entirely surprising that a player of Ushijima's caliber could break through their famed iron wall. However, Ushijima's spikes did not always get past Date Tech's block. Occasionally, they managed to stop him, their hands meeting the ball with enough force to send it rebounding back to Shiratorizawa's side. Each time they stopped him, it ignited confidence and motivation within their team. But this team standing before them now, the Crows who once could not fly Karasuno. A team that had previously foul-lent to Date Tech's defense. Their ace attacker had been completely blocked before, unable to score a single point against the Iron Wall. And yet, that match had been only 3 months ago. Such a short time had passed. And now, this same team had taken the first set in an almost overwhelming fashion. Even Date Tech's greatest strength, their formidable blocking, their iron wall, was being shattered. Not once had they managed to stop Karasuno's ace this time. Date Tech was crumbling. Their formation was breaking, their rhythm disrupted. The once solid defense was beginning to falter. Coupled with the psychological impact of Akira's tactics, hope followed by crushing despair, it had resulted in Date Tech playing in a daze by the latter half of the first set. Is that why everyone is so down? Finally, unable to bear the heavy atmosphere any longer, Maniwa stood up, frustration evident in his voice. Just because we lost one set, we're going to give up. His voice rang out, filled with determination. Everyone's only seeing how our iron wall was broken. But what about the spikes we blocked? Those were even more. The members of Date Tech froze at his words, momentarily taken aback. Maniwa, eyes glistening with unshed tears, continued to shout, his voice hoarse yet firm, if we lose heart here, then Date Tech will stop right here. We'll be eliminated in the group stage. But, as long as we don't give up, as long as we keep fighting, we have a chance to win. Even if that chance is slim. We have to hold on and give it our all. We can't give up. That's right. The spikes they had blocked, the points they had gained from shutting down their opponents, those were proof of their strength. How could they doubt themselves just because of one setback? Come on. Let's get our fighting spirit back. Date Tech does not break. Date Tech does not fall. Their voices rose in unison, filling the gym with a renewed energy. On the other side of the net, the Karasuno team heard the deafening chant. All eyes turned toward Akira, curious about his reaction. Meeting their gazes, Akira simply shrugged and said, "Unless you truly break the backbone of a team, they will always bounce back. I just didn't expect them to recover so quickly. In the next set, we can only rely on sheer strength to win." "Well, that's fine," Sugawara said with a smile. "Our last set wasn't too difficult. It didn't even feel like a real match. A head-to-head battle will be more exciting." "Yeah." Inashita agreed. "And Date Tech is a team known for its resilience. I know their captain, Maniwa. He's an optimistic guy who never gives up easily. Maybe it's because of him that they've managed to regain their fighting spirit so fast. Since they're back in form, we need to focus as well," Daiichi said firmly. "That's right. As the captains and seniors, Daiichi and Sugawara always knew how to rally their team. At the very least, we can't lose in terms of spirit. Karasuno. Let's go. Karasuno. Let's go." Chirp. With the referee's whistle, the SEC on set began. This time, the shift in Date Tech's energy was unmistakable. The team that had looked lost and broken in the first set was now brimming with resolve. Gone was the defeatist look in their eyes. They were back, focused and determined to fight. Their movements were sharper, their blocks more aggressive. They were no longer simply allowing Karasuno to control the flow of the game. Mizuguchi, watching from the sidelines, grinned excitedly. "Now this is more like it. This is the Date Tech we know." "Not necessarily," Irihata countered, shaking his head. "Didn't you see Akira's expression? He expected this. Underscore 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 O." Mizuguchi said with some surprise. Is there any other countermeasure he can't use against a team like Date Tech? Yes, yes, yes. Irihata said with a solemn expression. But he probably won't use it. Why? There are tactics that can guarantee a win, but he won't use them. That's inevitable. Mizoguchi asked with a puzzled look. Irihata glanced at him and chuckled. At this point, with Karasuno facing Date Tech, if they want to win, is there really any need for more tactics? Mizoguchi was suddenly speechless. Just like Shiratorizawa, they can rely on their sheer strength to crush the opponent. Irihata shook his head, sounding a little helpless. I'm afraid the tactics used in the first game were just a small test for him. He looked at Akira's figure on the court, and for a moment, he felt an inexplicable pressure. Just standing there quietly could bring a wordless intimidation to others. It was like an abyss shrouded in gray mist, impossible to gauge. Like a towering mountain obscured by clouds, pressing down on everyone's hearts. Chirp. The game resumed. This time, the determined Date Tech did cause some trouble for Karasuno. But Akira didn't take on all the responsibility of spiking like he did in the last game. Instead, he left some of the more difficult plays to his teammates. He always understood one fundamental truth: a single person cannot win an entire game. Against a team like Date Tech, it might not seem like a big deal. Even against Aobajosai, Akira could turn the tide with his individual strength. But what if the opponent was a powerhouse like Shiratorizawa? What about even stronger teams at nationals? It's like the famous barrel theory: a team's strength is always limited by its weakest link. A team that relies solely on one player is like a crippled, underdeveloped entity. It will never go far. Whenever Akira noticed weaknesses in the team, he would subconsciously try to compensate for them. Back at his old middle school, he had realized that his teammates had a lower skill ceiling. So, he had made sure to unify them through teamwork, covering for their shortcomings. But Karasuno was the opposite extreme. Every player on this team had incredible potential. So now, Akira focused on accelerating their growth and helping them unlock their full potential. And quickly turning that potential into actual strength. During training, Akira had intentionally or unintentionally corrected some of their mistakes. He had also provided new and better training methods. And now, his silent efforts were finally paying off. Karasuno was no longer the same team as before. Compared to Karasuno's strength in this same period in the original story, with Akira's presence, they had grown exponentially stronger. Everyone had improved by leaps and bounds. Even though Akira was playing more passively in this match, everyone else was displaying extraordinary strength. Whether it was Kageyama and Hineda's freak quick attack, or the team's long-standing weakness receiving powerful serves. Both offense and defense had reached a whole new level. Seeing this, Akira, who was in the back row, smiled in satisfaction. Only a team like this could qualify for nationals. Only a team like this could dream of winning nationals. Chirp. The final whistle blew, signaling the end of the match. Despite their unwavering fighting spirit, Date Tech was still no match for Karasuno. They had lost their C-hands at nationals. Their only hope now was to fight again at Spring High. Such is the cruelty of competitive sports. If Karasuno were to lose like this one day, they, too, would face a heartbreaking exit. Sigh. Losing because we weren't as skilled as our opponents. It's really frustrating. Irihata sighed and spoke to Mizoguchi beside him. Let's hope that tomorrow, we don't repeat Date Tech's mistakes. Hearing those words, Toru Oikawa, who stood nearby, clenched his fists tightly. Only he truly understood how strong Akira was. Tomorrow's match. It would be a battle to the death. Chapter 32, Chapter 32. Great. We actually got our revenge. After the game, as everyone packed their bags, Sugawara excitedly turned to Daichi. Only those who had lost to Date Tech before could understand the depth of this victory. In other words, Aoba Josai's match is happening right next door. Tanaka suddenly remembered and reminded the others. In the second set, Asahi had won against Date Tech with his own spike. He had personally shattered the iron wall that had haunted him, and now he looked especially bright and confident. That's right. This should be Aoba Josai's first match. We should check how their match is going. After all, tomorrow, our first game is against them. After packing up, Karasuno's team entered the adjacent gym. Once they found seats in the audience, they realized the match was already nearing its end. On the court, Oikawa Toru was serving continuously. Aoba Josai's opponent Yubugawa Hai was gradually being overwhelmed by his powerful jump serve. Oikawa's jump serve. Yamaguchi clenched his fists. Tomorrow, we'll be facing that serve head-on. I hope everyone is paying close attention. It's really aggressive. Hinata said in shock. The power is obvious, but what's even scarier is his precise ball control. He can send the ball exactly where he wants. Yamaguchi spoke with a serious expression. Oikawa's serves are terrifying. But what's even trickier is that, as a setter, he knows nothing about our team's playing style. Sugawara's face was tense. At that moment, deafening cheers erupted on the court. Oikawa had scored again. Oikawa. Send another good one. He approached the baseline, gripping the ball in his hands, scanning the opponent's formation with sharp eyes. Swoosh. Jump serve. The powerful ball was barely received by the back row of Yubugawa. Chance ball. Although the ball was picked up, the receiver had failed to control the force. It soared straight over the net. Oikawa rushed forward, leapt into the air, and set the ball. Parallel quick attack. Iwaizumi, already in position, spiked the ball with perfect timing. Their teamwork is seamless. So strong. Sugawara's face grew even more serious. That parallel quick attack had revealed a lot about Aoba Josai's coordination. Oikawa and Iwaizumi have been playing together since childhood, Kageyama added, watching intently. Their chemistry is on another level. We noticed this during our practice match, Yamaguchi recalled, rubbing his chin. Aoba Josai's second setter is pretty good too. After all, it's Aoba Josai. But he looked at Oikawa serving calmly and continued, Oikawa knows his teammates inside and out. He brings out 100% of everyone's abilities. Tweet. Under Oikawa's relentless attack, Yubugawa's defense crumbled. They couldn't escape defeat. Aoba Josai won 2-0. That evening, Karasuno's gym was still brightly lit. We're going to have a short meeting, Daiichi announced, standing before the team with a serious expression. We had a practice match against Aoba Josai before. I'm sure everyone remembers their strength. That time, we won. But that was without Oikawa. I believe you all saw Oikawa today and the impact he had on Aoba Josai. I don't want anyone underestimating them just because we won a practice match. His sharp gaze swept across the team. If we do, we'll pay a heavy price tomorrow. Yes. Even without being told, everyone understood. A lion still uses its full strength to hunt a rabbit. And tomorrow, they weren't facing a rabbit. They were facing another tiger. Daiichi then turned to Akira, curiosity in his eyes. We don't know Oikawa's full capabilities. But I heard you once played against him in an official match. What's your opinion of him? Seeing that everyone's eyes were focused on him, Akira rubbed his chin thoughtfully, recalling his past match with Oikawa. That game, I was the main attacker on the team, he began. And Oikawa was our setter, responsible for delivering the ball to me. His sets. Hearing this, Kageyama's eyes lit up as he listened intently. They felt unbelievably comfortable, Akira continued, an odd expression on his face. It's difficult to describe, but Oikawa can tailor his sets perfectly to the different characteristics of each player. There were multiple types of attackers on our team, some preferred high balls, others specialized in sharp quick attacks. After just a few attempts, Oikawa was already setting the ball exactly how each hitter liked it. So, he's a setter who truly enhances his team's performance, Akira concluded. Enhances the team? Kageyama asked, his expression puzzled. Exactly. Akira nodded. He's the type of player who brings out 120% of his team's potential. With familiar teammates, his ability to maximize their strengths is terrifying. That means we absolutely cannot underestimate them tomorrow. Sugawara was about to ask another question, but Akira suddenly clapped his hands as if recalling something important. Oh, right, he said. Oikawa is not just a setter, he's also an incredibly offensive player. If he finds an opening, he won't hesitate to take the shot himself. So, don't just think of him as an ordinary setter. A super offensive setter. Kageyama muttered, his face solemn. Seeing the serious expressions on his teammates' faces, Akira chuckled. No need to look so worried. I actually think we can use this to our advantage against Aoba Josai. What? Daichi exclaimed in disbelief. You mean Oikawa will be our target? That's right. Akira said confidently. Oikawa's habit of attacking whenever he finds an opportunity is usually an advantage, but now that we know about it in advance, we can counter him. How exactly? Sugawara asked, still a little confused. It's simple, Akira explained with a smirk. Oikawa's offensive plays rely on catching opponents off guard. But if we keep an eye on him, we can anticipate and block his attacks. If we successfully shut him down a few times, he'll hesitate to attempt those attacks again. And once he's thrown off his rhythm, it won't be us who struggle, it'll be him. That's a terrifying thought. Akira continued. A setter who loses their rhythm starts to make uncomfortable sets, which affects the entire team's performance. Everyone was stunned for a moment before Shuga suddenly slapped his thigh. Yes. That's a brilliant strategy. Why didn't I think of that? Exactly. Daichi added, clenching his fists. If we disrupt their core, the whole team will be affected, and that's when we strike. Everyone turned their eyes toward Akira, impressed by his insight. Kageyama, however, crossed his arms and muttered, I really wouldn't want to be your opponent. Being read so thoroughly, it's unsettling. Akira turned to him with a scowl. No one's looking at you, idiot. Don't flatter yourself. On the way home, Akira and Kyoko walked side by side under the dim glow of the streetlights, the summer night air cool and still. Tomorrow's match is crucial, Akira, Kyoko said, glancing at him with a hint of concern. Are you confident? Despite the team's enthusiasm earlier, she couldn't ignore the reality they were facing one of the strongest teams in the prefecture. Aoba Josai had reached the finals multiple times, proving their dominance. Running into them so early in the tournament was an unfortunate twist of fate for Karasuno. Kyoko typically kept her concerns to herself, avoiding adding pressure to the team. But with Akira, she felt comfortable enough to voice her worries. Don't worry. Akira reassured her, taking her hand with a confident smile. Tomorrow's game? We're going to win. No surprises. Chapter 33, Karasuno vs Aoba Josai, 1, Sendai City Gymnasium. Aoba Josai. Aoba Josai. Overwhelming. Aoba Josai. Aoba Josai. Out of the ordinary. Deafening cheers echoed throughout the gymnasium. As one of the strongest teams in the prefecture, Aoba Josai had long held a dominant position. Their school provided an excellent volleyball environment, and for every competition, Students formed spontaneous cheer squads to support their team. On Karasuno's side, there was also a significant number of supporters, though they consisted mostly of older men and a few younger individuals. Some car ride banners, but rather than supporting the team as a whole, they bore a single name, Akira. What the hell? This is ridiculous. An older man in the audience frowned in confusion. Haha. Weren't we the same when we were young? Another uncle beside him laughed, patting his shoulder. Huh? Did you guys come all the way from Miyagi Arena? A younger man nearby asked curiously. That's right. We specifically came to watch that crazy kid play. The first uncle replied proudly. Oh? Have you heard the latest rumor? An older man sitting behind them suddenly leaned forward, his tone mysterious. What rumor? Curious as ever, the surrounding spectators turned to him, waiting for his revelation. Heh. This rumor is huge. He teased, pausing for dramatic effect. But after noticing the deadly stares from those around him, he quickly spilled the news. A few days after the finals, Mr. Ere and Mr. Takano from the Miyagi Volleyball Development Center will be attending to watch. What? The spectators were stunned. Ned. Are you serious? Mr. Ere and Mr. Takano? Those two? Why would they come to a regular competition? Yeah. They're way beyond this level. Skeptical, the audience turned back to the man. This isn't fake news, is it? How could it be? The man puffed up his chest indignantly. My neighbor's kid works at the Miyagi Prefecture Volleyball Development Center. He heard it himself. If that's true. The spectators fell into deep thought. Well, it makes sense that Mr. Ere would come. After all, he's played against Akira before. But why would Mr. Takano, the vice chairman, be interested? Maybe they were just discussing that match at work, and it piqued his curiosity. That's right. If this is true, we'll be watching the game alongside some big names. Meanwhile, Karasuno's players entered the gymnasium. Akira, who are those people in the audience? Tanaka asked, pointing toward the section where fans were holding signs with Akira's name. The rest of Karasuno turned to Akira with curiosity. There were simply too many of them. Akira blinked in surprise, recognizing a few familiar faces, and let out a helpless chuckle. Ah, just some people who know me. No way. Strangers wouldn't come just to cheer for you. Tanaka protested. Before Akira could reply, a sudden wave of excited cheers erupted from Aobajo-sai's side. Oikawa-san. Do your best. As both a skilled player and a charismatic figure, Oikawa had built a fan base that extended beyond his school. His presence alone drew many admirers. Akira-san. Let's go. Out of nowhere, a thundering cheer echoed from Karasuno's side. Only, it wasn't from a group of girls. Instead, a group of men in matching fan shirts waved enthusiastically, their deep voices filling the stadium. The entire Karasuno team, including Akira, was momentarily stunned. Ahem. Akira cleared his throat awkwardly before bowing. Thank you for your support. Truthfully, he was just as curious about how they knew where he played. Since entering high school, he hadn't participated in any public matches. Even at Miyagi Arena, he never mentioned Karasuno's name. Yet, these people who had watched him play there had still managed to track him down. Humph. No need for extra encouragement. One of the uncles scoffed. There's no way he's losing. His confidence earned chuckles from those around him. Chirp. Line up. Please take care of us. The players from both teams stood face to face at the net, the tension in the air palpable. Hey, little Kageyama, don't disappoint me. Oikawa smirked, eyeing Kageyama from across the court. It was one of his usual psychological tactics. But what Oikawa didn't know was that Akira had prepared a few psychological tactics of his own. Rather than responding, Kageyama simply smirked. Then, as if on cue, the entire Karasuno team turned their heads toward Oikawa and let out an eerie chuckle. Oikawa felt an immediate chill run down his spine. What the hell is that supposed to mean?" he stammered, pointing at Kageyama in disbelief. "Haha. Nothing at all." Akira stepped in, patting Kageyama on the shoulder. "They're just excited to face Miyagi's #1 setter. TCH. Like hell I believe you." Oikawa shot back. "Are you planning to gang up on me after the game? Are you jealous of my handsome face?" As the match was about to begin, Karasuno's starting lineup took their positions, with Akira standing in the front row. Looking at Aoba Josai's formation, Karasuno's players couldn't help but recall the strategy discussion from the previous night. "Oikawa saw my spikes in the date tech game," Akira had said. "And Aoba Josai's blocking isn't as strong as date tech's. That means, he won't risk blocking when I spike. He knows they can't stop me. They'll likely shift back to receive instead. If that happens, Kageyama can set up a quick attack with another front row spiker. Oikawa won't be able to react in time. This will expand our attack variations, making it harder for Aoba Josai to keep up." The plan was set. Now, the only question was, would Aoba Josai play exactly as Akira predicted? Chapter 34, Chapter 34, Karasuno vs Aoba Josai, 2, Chirping. Since Aoba Josai won the coin toss, Karasuno started with the serve for the first set. Tsukishima. Send in a good serve. After launching the ball across the court, Karasuno's three front row players focused on Aoba Josai's movements. Prepare to block. However, unlike in other matches, this time, all three were extra attentive, keeping an eye on Oikawa's movements. Slam. A clean reception by Aoba Josai's libero. Here it comes. Two attackers in the front row sprinted at the same time. Who will spike? Or is it? Chirping. The sharp sound of sneakers squeaking against the floor echoed through the court. Out of nowhere, Akira suddenly jumped. Almost simultaneously. Oikawa executed a surprise setter dump. Smack. Before anyone could react, Akira immediately shut it down, stuffing the ball right back onto Aoba Josai's court. A blocked point. Oh my god. What a quick reaction. In the stands, the excited voices of Karasuno's supporters erupted in unison. How did he do that? Just as Oikawa jumped, he jumped with him. But Oikawa didn't show any signs of a setter dump beforehand. Exactly. Normally, a second touch attack like that is a masterstroke from Oikawa. Scoring the first point like this shakes the opponent's confidence. It throws them off balance for the rest of the match. But with Akira blocking it straight away, the psychological effect might be reversed. That's right. I feel like this match is going to be tough for Aoba Josai. Heh. Oikawa, do you really think you can win with little tricks like that? Akira smirked as he locked eyes with a startled Oikawa across the net. Oikawa furrowed his brows, but his usual cocky smirk returned as he shot back, "Don't let me get the chance. Otherwise, you're losing points. But you've already lost one." Neither side backed down, exchanging sharp words across the net. Back at the baseline, Kageyama turned to Akira. "Did it work?" "When I blocked the net, Oikawa was definitely startled. But he's not someone who gets shaken that easily. We'll need to keep pressuring him before it really starts affecting him." "Got it?" Kageyama clenched his fist in determination. "I'll keep my eyes on him." Chirp-ing. Karasuno's point, serve continues. Smack. Aoba Josai's libero made another clean reception. But this time, Oikawa didn't go for another setter dump. Instead, He played it safe and set it up for the wing spiker to attack. However, Akira shut it down again. Damn it! Oikawa glared at Akira on the other side of the net. I knew this was possible, but actually seeing it happen is really frustrating. You're just as annoying as ever, Oikawa. Akira grinned confidently. The referee's whistle blew. Tsukishima stepped up for another serve. But this time, Aoba Josai pulled off a back row attack to throw off Karasuno's blockers. At the last second, Tsukishima in the back row managed to dig the spike. Kageyama swiftly moved into position and set the ball to Akira, their ace attacker. Of course. Seeing Akira rise for a spike, Aoba Josai's three blockers stepped back, bracing for impact. Kageyama's eyes widened as he watched Akira in mid-air, ready to strike. He predicted it perfectly. Boom. Even with Aoba Josai's full preparation, they couldn't stop Akira's spike. The ball deflected and flew straight out of bounds. Chirping. The match had just begun, but Aoba Josai was already trailing 0-3. And all 3 points belonged to Akira alone. What's happening? Is Oikawa and the team off their game today? It feels like we're at a total disadvantage right now. The Aoba Josai supporters murmured anxiously. That Karasuno guy is incredible. Yeah. He's almost as good as Oikawa. Losing suddenly doesn't feel so bad if we get to watch someone like that. Just outside the stadium entrance, brother. Hurry up. We're going to miss it. Alright. I don't get why you're so impatient. Iwai Kento led the way, urging his brother to keep up. Seriously. Yo, you always watch his matches, and now you're rushing to see him again. Trailing behind, Iwai Yasui muttered complaints under his breath. Humph. Like you have any right to judge me. Don't think I don't know you've secretly watched Akira's matches when I wasn't around. Caught off guard, Iwai Yasui's face turned red. That's different. I was studying his techniques, not fanboying like you. Kento gave his brother a look of disbelief. Yeah, sure you were. Shut up. Let's go. The match has already started. Anything can happen on the court. Right now, Karasuno had the advantage. But one rotation could turn things around for Aoba Josai. Aoba Josai had earned their reputation as one of the strongest teams in the prefecture. With Oikawa leading them, every player could unleash their full potential. Oikawa, who understood his teammates' strengths and habits, conducted their plays like a maestro. Every attack, every movement, every strategy, it was all within his control. But Akira wasn't an easy opponent either. Even with Aoba Josai adapting their defense to counter him, most of Akira's attacks still landed. There was a hidden rhythm in his spikes. Every hit seemed to find the exact spot Aoba Josai least wanted it to go. Smack. Aoba Josai's libero barely dug out another straight spike. What's going on? He clenched his jaw as he watched the ball fly out of bounds. It was a straight shot. But after it hit my arm, it deflected to the left. And before that, it went to the right. How are we supposed to receive this kind of ball? Chapter 35, Karasuno vs Aoba Josai, 3, it wasn't just the libero who had noticed the problem. Anyone who received Akira's spike could more or less sense that something was off. What's going on? Did everyone suddenly slack off in training? From the coach's box outside the court, Mizuguchi frowned as he watched the score gap widen, pacing anxiously. Tweet. Seeing Matsukawa fail to receive another spike, he gritted his teeth and muttered in frustration, even the most basic ball reception is resulting in mistakes. Unbelievable. Calm down, Mizuguchi. Shinichi Irihata, standing beside him, interjected, unable to ignore his agitation. Maybe the problem isn't with our players. His expression turned serious as he analyzed the situation on the court. What? Mizuguchi looked at him in surprise. You mean that main attacker from the other team? Irihata's expression darkened slightly. The spikes he's hitting, they seem to carry some kind of spin. What? Spin? Mizuguchi's eyes widened as he focused on the court. But if the ball has side spin, it wouldn't travel so straight. Yet, his spikes. He trailed off, hesitant. Tweet. Just then, the referee's whistle blew again. Aoba Josai had lost another point. I can't say for sure, but let's call them over and ask. Irihata sighed, shaking his head. Tweet. Oh. Aoba Josai's coach has called a timeout. Haha. Must be for some emergency strategy. With reception like that, can they really be considered a powerhouse team? It's embarrassing. The audience murmured among themselves, throwing criticism at Aoba Josai's performance. Not necessarily. A new voice interrupted the discussion. Iwai stood up, his brows furrowed as he analyzed the match. As a professional player, he had started to notice something unusual. What do you mean, brother? Kento looked at him in confusion. Aoba Josai had failed to receive Akira's spikes multiple times now. It looked like a simple mistake on their part. He was sure he could receive those spikes himself. Others nearby turned their attention to Iwai, curious about his thoughts. The ball Akira just spiked, it seems to have some kind of additional rotation, Iwai said hesitantly. Rotation? Kento frowned. Aren't normal spikes already spinning? Who would spike a floater? No. No. Iwai quickly shook his head. This isn't the usual topspin spike. It's a spike with either left or right spin. What? Left spin? Right spin? The people around him froze in shock. Iwai swallowed hard before continuing. Yes. When that spinning ball makes contact with the receiver's arms, the rotational force causes it to bounce off at an unpredictable angle. That's why it looks like they're just failing at basic reception. Kento turned to stare at Akira on the court, still unconvinced. But, in that case, why doesn't the ball's trajectory curve left or right? Iwai sighed, smiling bitterly. Exactly. That's what confuses me. Because this kind of spike shouldn't be possible. Why? Why can't we properly receive that spike? The moment Aoba Josai's players left the court, Mizuguchi was the first to speak. Haven't you all been in contact with it multiple times already? Are you getting nervous? Calm down, Mizuguchi. Irihata sighed, rubbing his forehead at Mizuguchi's impatience. Then, turning to the players, he asked in a measured tone, is there something strange about Akira's spikes? Yes. The libero was the first to answer. The ball he spikes feels like it has a spring attached to it. When it hits my arm, it just bounces away. And his face flushed in frustration, unable to properly describe what he had felt. There's some kind of strange spin on the ball, another player added. Yes. That's it? The libero shot him a grateful glance. Sigh. Irihata lowered his head, sighing deeply. I didn't want to believe it, but it seems to be true. The strangest part is that even though the ball has left or right spin, its trajectory doesn't change visibly. We can't judge where it will go. That's why it keeps slipping past us, the libero added from behind. Irihata remained silent for a moment, deep in thought. Because there was no real countermeasure to this. If the receiver positioned their arms for a left spin and G-ball, but it turned out to be right, spinning or even a no-spin shot, the ball would bounce off uncontrollably. And if they positioned themselves for a right spin, they would still miscalculate for left spin or floaters. It was an unsolvable problem. So, we just have to rely on luck to defend against his spikes. Mizuguchi's voice trembled as he voiced his growing despair. There's no other choice. Irihata shook his head grimly. Blocking won't work against him. It might even backfire. The only thing WE can do is receive and hope for the best. If this continues, there's only one option left. What? Mizoguchi's eyes lit up. You mean, we still have a way to win? Yes. Since we can't defend properly, we'll have to attack instead. Attack with everything we've got. Continuously push the offense and take points from Karasuno. Mizoguchi clenched his fists. Attack with everything. And Irihata continued with a serious expression. We must take advantage of Akira's back row rotations. With OUT his blocking at the net, Karasuno's defense will weaken significantly. That's when we launch our counterattack. Yes. He nodded firmly, his eyes burning with determination. When Akira moves to the back, we strike with everything we have. Bonus chapter, 300 Power Stones Chapter 36, Chapter 36, Karasuno vs Aobajosai, 4, with the end of the timeout, everyone in Aobajosai returned to the court. Come on. Let's go, Aobajosai. The voices of Aobajosai's cheerleaders rang out through the stands. The referee's whistle blew. The serve was still on Karasuno's side. Seeing the fierce determination on the faces of Aobajosai's players, Yamaguchi's eyes widened as he warned, everyone, be careful. Aobajosai is going to launch a reckless attack on us. What? Hearing this, the Karasuno players were taken aback. Don't worry too much, Akira reassured them, his expression calm. They're like a trapped beast right now. But when I rotate to the back row, you all must remember one thing, he continued. Even if we let them get a few spikes through, we absolutely cannot let Oikawa score with his dump set. Got it? Kageyama's face hardened. I'll keep an eye on him. Actually, there's no need to panic too much, Akira added. Aobajosai's counterattack is a last resort. They've already stepped into a desperate situation. This match, we're going to win. One more rotation, and Akira would be in the back row. At that point, his teammates' performance would become crucial. Meanwhile, Aobajosai had completely changed their approach. Attack! Attack! Attack again! Oh no! Aobajosai is desperate now. Their usual style is completely out of control. There's no structure at all. Do they really think they can beat Karasuno with this chaotic play? In the audience, several older volleyball fans shook their heads. Well, it's not like they have any other options. If they keep playing normally, they won't stand a chance. Even so, they can't win like this. Karasuno is already an Attack King powerhouse. And now Aobajosai wants to challenge them head-on? That's a guaranteed loss. But they have no choice. They're already in a desperate situation. They have to fight back with everything they've got. Yeah, if we were under this much pressure, we'd probably be in chaos too. Even the audience could see how overwhelming Akira's attack was. Just by spiking, he forced the opponent to shift their blockers elsewhere. That kind of dominance could be bragged about for a lifetime. With Aobajosai's change in strategy, the game entered a stalemate. After a few more rotations, Akira was finally sent to the back row. Aobajosai's players collectively breathed a sigh of relief. The pressure he brought was too much. Anyone who had faced him firsthand would understand. His spikes were relentless. Blocking him was useless and often backfired. To counter this, Aobajosai had decided to abandon blocking altogether and focus entirely on defense. But the moment they dropped their blockers, Karasuno switched up their tactics. More sets, more fast attacks from different players. Aobajosai didn't know whether to step forward or step back. And Akira's spikes had an odd effect, they bounced unpredictably off arms, making clean receptions almost impossible. By this point, Aoba Josai's mentality was beginning to crack. Such a terrifying opponent. Even when they tried to target his weaknesses, he adapted instantly. They suspected that even if they figured out how to receive his strange spinning spikes, Akira would just invent a new spike they couldn't handle. Playing against someone like this was pure despair. Finally, after their coach called a timeout, Aoba Josai adjusted their approach. Since they couldn't defend against him properly, they decided to stop trying G. If they could receive the ball, they would. If not, they wouldn't waste energy on it. Instead, they focused everything on attacking. Just when they thought they had escaped the torment of Akira's offense, they realized he was still their biggest nightmare. His blocking was an insurmountable wall. Aoba Josai had played against Date Tech before, but facing Akira's blocks gave them a new appreciation for what it meant to be shut down. If not for the slightly weaker blocking skills of the other two front row players, the title of Iron Wall might have been stolen from Date Tech. Even Oikawa's clever dump sets were stopped again and again. Aoba Josai's players started to feel it. Their leader, their ace, Oikawa, was beginning to lose his composure. Mistakes that he normally wouldn't make started slipping in. Strong attacks, impenetrable blocking. As long as Akira was in the front row, Aoba Josai had no way to score reliably. But finally, with the next rotation, Akira was sent to the back row. Just as coach Irihata had said. Now was Aoba Josai's chance to recover points. Oikawa exhaled deeply when he saw Akira switch positions. When Akira had been at the net, Oikawa's dump sets had been completely shut down. No matter how sneaky his feints were, Akira read them all. It completely disrupted their usual rhythm. Even when their coach told them to go all out, Oikawa had tried dump sets multiple times. And every single one had been stopped. Now, finally, Akira was out of the way. But what Oikawa didn't know was, Akira had given instructions before moving to the back row. The three players in the front row kept subtly glancing at Oikawa, watching his every move. The whistle blew. Karasuno's serve. Akira sent a simple, controlled serve over the net. Right now, this wasn't a life or death moment, so he wanted more rally experience. It would benefit both himself and the team. Smack. His serve was successfully received by Aoba Josai. Swish. A steady pass flew toward Oikawa. His instincts kicked in as he glanced at Karasuno's formation. The three front row players were completely focused on his attackers. Golden opportunity. This was the perfect chance for a dump set. Oikawa's heart pounded with excitement. His years of experience took over, and mid-air, he subtly adjusted his grip. Dump. But what he never expected was, at the exact moment he changed his grip, the three Karasuno blockers jumped in unison. What? Oikawa's eyes widened in shock. How did they know I was going for a dump set? Bonus chapter, 300 Power Stones Chapter 37, Chapter 37, Karasuno vs Aoba Josai, 5, No surprises. Just as Oikawa himself once said, there's no better ball to stop than a dump set which you've already seen through. And once again, the dump set was stopped. Oikawa, who had just lost another chance to score, didn't say anything this time. He simply clenched his fists tightly and walked back into the rotation without a word. But what he failed to notice was that his frustration was beginning to spread to his teammates. As the setter and the core of Aoba Josai, Oikawa's presence dictated the team's rhythm. Under his leadership, everyone could push beyond their limits, reaching 120% of their potential. But if Oikawa himself started to falter, then Aoba Josai was in serious trouble. And now, with Akira moving to the back row, the situation wasn't as one-sided as Aoba Josai had expected. Karasuno's attack spear Kageyama and Hinata's quick attack was proving to be devastating. Even though Akira's defense was slightly stringent, Karasuno's offensive power skyrocketed with their synchronized quicks. Aoba Josai had faced this attack before, in practice matches. Yet, when Kageyama and Hinata unleashed their fastest tempo attack, it still caught them off guard. Karasuno's strength had always been their aggressive offense. Meanwhile, Aoba Josai prided itself on a controlled rhythm-based strategy, dragging opponents into their pace and overpowering them with precise teamwork. But now, they had lost control of the rhythm. They weren't dictating the pace anymore. Karasuno was. The game continued, and although Aoba Josai was still scoring, the gap between them and Karasuno wasn't closing. In fact, it was widening. Tweet. The referee's whistle pierced through the air. Point for Karasuno. Aoba Josai barely reacted. They had been so focused on playing catch-up that they hadn't even realized what had happened. When they looked up at the scoreboard, 25 Karasuno had won the set. It felt like waking from a dream, a nightmare. How did this happen? How did they lose so suddenly? They stared blankly at the score, the weight of reality settling in. On the sidelines, Irihata let out a heavy sigh. Come back. His voice was calm but firm, snapping the players out of their daze. Some walked back onto the court like ghosts. Even Oikawa, usually so composed, seemed momentarily shaken. Coach Irihata, you've done your best. Irihata cut him off before he could say more. Right now, he needed to prevent the team from breaking down mental. I may have made a mistake with my decision earlier. The coach's words were even, measured. The sudden change in our playing style affected everyone. For the next game, no matter the opponent, we stick to our style of play. Looking back, the shift in strategy hadn't worked in Aoba Josai's favor. Instead of disrupting Karasuno, it disrupted their own team. Irihata had seen it happening. He should have called it sooner. As long as everyone plays to their full potential, regardless of the result, our match will be complete. And if we lose, then we go back, train harder, and come back stronger. That's all there is to it. A loss wasn't the end. It was a lesson. Karasuno's bench on the other side, Karasuno's bench was lively. We played well in that first set, Yukai nodded, satisfied. He clapped his hands together, catching everyone's attention. The game plan we practiced last night worked perfectly. But don't get overconfident. His voice sharpened. We take this one set at a time. We stay focused. We finish strong. Yes. The entire team answered in unison. Kageyama and Akira. During the break, Kageyama walked over to Akira, who was sitting on the bench drinking water. I can't believe it. Akira raised an eyebrow. Your strategy actually worked, Kageyama admitted, his tone a mix of disbelief and excitement. In the second half, I could feel Oikawa's accuracy slipping. Kageyama's grip on his water bottle tightened. He had been chasing Oikawa since junior high. Back then, Oikawa was known as the strongest setter in the prefecture. Beating him had become Kageyama's obsession. And now this wasn't just because of his teammates. It wasn't just luck. He had actually won. Akira smirked. Oh. He tilted his head, taking another sip. So, you doubted me when I first suggested this plan. Kageyama laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. No, I just didn't think it worked this well. Then, after a pause, in the next set, can I use a dump set against Aoba Josai? Akira blinked. Kageyama looked dead serious. Akira studied him for a moment before sighing. You don't have to, Kageyama. Kageyama frowned. Huh? What do you mean? Aren't you just trying to prove you're better than Oikawa? Kageyama flinched. It was obvious. I'll just say it, Akira continued. In terms of pure passing technique, you're already better than him. Kageyama froze. His head snapped up. Really? Akira nodded. That super fast attack you and Hinata use. Oikawa can't do that kind of set. But, Akira added, crossing his arms, your teamwork still needs improvement. Kageyama barely registered that last part. His mind was still stuck on one thing: I'm already better than him. Oikawa can't do that attack. He stood up in a daze, muttering the words under his breath as he walked away. Stronger than him, he can't do it? Akira watched him go, a twitch forming at his temple. Oi! Kageyama kept walking, lost in thought. Stronger than him, can't do it? Akira's patience snapped. With a WELL aimed kick, he knocked Kageyama to the ground. Stop mumbling like an idiot. Kageyama groaned, rubbing his back. Akira clicked his tongue. I shouldn't have wasted my breath on you. The break ended. The next set was about to begin. Karasuno vs Aoba Osai. Set 2. Bonus Chapter, 300 Power Stones Chapter 38, Chapter 38, Aftermath-Chirping. At the beginning of the second set, Aoba Osai's style of play changed again. No longer being dragged along by Karasuno's rhythm, they were gradually rediscovering their own. However, as they continued with their previous strategy, a flaw gradually emerged. And that flaw was the play of their captain Toru Oikawa. Since the second half of the first set, Oikawa had started making uncharacteristic mistakes. At times, his sets were so off-target that the ball would float over to the opponent's side of the net. Now that Aoba Osai had returned to their usual rhythm, their team instinctively moved in sync with Oikawa's guidance. This was the result of countless hours of practice. But this time Oikawa himself was off rhythm. Not only was he making various mistakes, but even his command of the team felt weak. The calm and calculating Oikawa, who had always dictated the pace of the game, seemed to have vanished. And in this state this Aoba Osai could not hope to compete with the current Karasuno. Chirping. The referee's whistle blew as Karasuno launched their final attack. And in the end Akira's spike sealed the game. Karasuno 2-0 Aoba Osai. 1 step closer to the top 8. They were now the only team advancing from Group A. And later that afternoon they would face the team that had qualified from Group H. The winner of that match would move on to the top 4 in the prefecture and qualify for the semi-finals. The spectators' discussion: today's game was pretty solid. The level of high school volleyball in Miyagi Prefecture is even higher than I expected this year. Even though Aoba Osai lost, they still put up a good fight. And Karasuno, wow! They're tough. Humph. What did you expect? Look at the teams playing here. One is a consistent semifinalist, and they often make it to the finals. The other? They're probably the future champions. Only Shirei Darizawa can compete with them at this point. In the stands, the older spectators left in pairs, excitedly discussing the matches. Man, now that you say that, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's final. That's right. Miyagi Prefecture is really strong this year. Maybe we can actually win the championship at Inter-High in Tokyo. You're thinking too far ahead. Tokyo is full of powerhouse schools. Even making it to the Final Four would be impressive. Karasuno's team back on the court, Karasuno's players were packing up their things. Today's victory over a powerhouse like Aoba Osai had skyrocketed their confidence. Suddenly, Tsukishima seemed to remember something and casually asked, by the way, has the Group H qualifying match been decided yet? Who are we playing against in the next round? Hearing his question, Takeda-sensei quickly checked the match schedule in his hands. The battle for Group H's spot is between Izumi High and Arigawa High. But from what I heard, these two teams are pretty evenly matched. Their game is happening right now in the venue next door. We can go watch it? The moment those words left his mouth, the entire team's eyes lit up. Getting a chance to observe their next opponent firsthand? No way they were missing this. Scouting the next opponent stepping into the neighboring venue, Karasuno's players were immediately hit by the deafening cheers from both sides' supporters. At this point, the match was in a heated battle. The scoreboard showed a 1-1 tie. And the decisive third set had just begun. This was the peak of competition. Both teams treated every single rally like it was the most crucial point of the game. Neither side was willing to back down. Karasuno's players settled into their seats, eyes fixed on the court. Sugawara observed the match for a moment before commenting, "Seems like Araigawa has the upper hand." "Yeah. Their number 4 middle blocker is a beast," Tanaka added. "The way he just linked up with their setter on that fast back attack. That was insane." The player in question was a tall muscular middle blocker with a broad frame. Typically, players with his physical attributes were either the team's main ace or backup setter. But in his case he was playing as a middle blocker. Even more unusual, his entire team's strategy revolved around him. They had clearly designed a system that maximized his scoring potential. And sure enough, in just a few quick rallies, he had led Araigawa to score 3 consecutive points, pushing their lead to 4-1. Doubt and analysis. Daichi frowned slightly as he watched the match unfold. But Izumatate's playstyle feels a little off. After a moment of thought, he turned to Akira. "What do you think, Akira?" Hearing Daichi's question, Akira chuckled softly and shook his head. "I don't know how the match will unfold from here. But if the game continues at this pace..." He paused for a moment before calmly saying, "Araigawa is definitely going to lose." "What?" Everyone immediately turned to him in shock. It was clear that Araigawa was dominating right now. But Akira had just declared their defeat. "Hold on, why do you think that?" Tanaka asked, frowning. Akira simply smiled, leaning back in his seat. "Just watch." Hearing that his teammates looked at him strangely because anyone with eyes could see that Araigawa has clear advantage in this set and their victory is guaranteed. And with that the game continued. Bonus chapter, 300 Power Stones. Chapter 39, Chapter 39, the tide turns. Not only are they bound to lose, but also, if my expectations are correct, the first match just now should be Araigawa, and the second game is Izumatate's victory. As for the reason, it's very simple. Seeing the puzzled expressions of his teammates, Akira said to them unhurriedly, "Look at Izumatate's playing style on the court. Even when they were behind in score, they didn't panic at all." He pointed to several Izumitate players on the court and continued, "Their style of play is that very solid, fundamental style. While their attack is weaker compared to Araigawa's, and they can only barely withstand their offensive, they are actively adapting to Araigawa's attack patterns. That little libero, and a few of their front row players, have already adjusted to Araigawa's tempo. Plus, with the run-in of their first 2 matches, I'd say they've now figured out how to counter Araigawa." As Akira spoke, Izumitate had already recovered 2 points. Izumitate is the kind of team that takes time to heat up. If they go up against an equally strong team and manage to drag the match into the third set, their chances of winning skyrocket. So, in the afternoon match against Izumitate, we need to finish them off within the first 2 sets. After hearing Akira's words, everyone looked at the court thoughtfully. Sure enough, as the game went on, Araigawa's powerful offense started to wear down. Their star middle blockers' quick attacks were getting shut down more and more. Meanwhile, Izumitate remained calm and collected. And with Araigawa unable to land their attacks, they started to unravel. Gradually, Izumitate overtook them in score. Realizing this, Araigawa's players grew even more frantic. The coordination they had barely been holding together completely fell apart. "In hallway, you idiot. What the hell was that today?" Behind the competition venue, Iwaizumi grabbed Oikawa's collar, glaring at him with a mix of frustration and concern. His eyes were filled with anger and confusion. It wasn't just because they had lost, it was because Oikawa had been completely out of it. During the match, he had been off his game, and Iwaizumi had noticed. In front of their other teammates, Iwaizumi hadn't said anything. But now, before they got on the bus back to school, he confronted him. "Are you afraid? Afraid of losing?" Iwaizumi roared, his frustration boiling over. Oikawa opened his mouth, caught off guard, but no words came out. "You dumbass." Iwaizumi slammed his forehead against Oikawa's, and instantly a thin stream of blood ran down both of their faces. It was impossible to tell whose it was. "Ow, ow, ow. That hurts." IWHN. As if he had finally snapped back to reality, Oikawa groaned in pain. The last time Iwaizumi had done this to him was back in middle school. After a similar loss. Thinking about it now. "I really am a coward, huh?" Oikawa muttered. "You moron." Seeing him like this, Iwaizumi's face darkened again. "Wait. No more, IWHN. I'm awake now. Don't hit me again." Oikawa hurriedly held up his hands in surrender. Iwaizumi sighed, crossing his arms. "What the hell was wrong with you today? It's not like we haven't lost before. It's not like we can't handle it." Oikawa hesitated for a moment before scratching his head. "Honestly. Before the match even started, I kind of figured we'd lose. So it's not the loss itself that got to me. As for why I was playing so badly during the game, I couldn't understand why my usual rhythm was completely messed up. But now I get it." As he spoke, Oikawa gritted his teeth in frustration. "This is all that sneaky bastard Akira's doing." "Oh." Hearing this, Iwaizumi raised an eyebrow. "What does this have to do with him?" Oikawa clenched his fist, swinging it through the air in frustration. "I was wondering why my usual attacks weren't landing after 2 whole sets. But when you smacked some sense into me just now, it finally clicked. That sneaky bastard must have studied our tactics in advance and came up with a plan specifically to counter me. He's strong enough already, but no, he had to use strategy to mess me up too." Oikawa gritted his teeth. "The next time I go up against Karasuno, I swear, I'm going to throw his stupid tactics right back at him." "Huh? What plan? What kind of tactic?" Iwaizumi asked, confused. Oikawa simply grinned mischievously, patting Iwaizumi's head. "Ha ha. Doesn't matter. With your brain, you wouldn't get it anyway. You bastard. You wanna die? Ha ha. I was kidding. I was kidding." Back in the competition venue tweet. The final whistle blew. Izumi Tate RH had 25 points first. They had officially qualified as the top team from Group H. And that meant Karasuno's next opponent was set. Karasuno vs Izumi Tate happening this afternoon. After watching the match, the Karasuno team stood up and began heading toward the lounge. Walking alongside Yukai, Daiichi glanced at the coach and asked, "So, Coach Yukai, what's our strategy for the match this afternoon?" "It's simple." Yukai grinned. "Just like Akira said before. Against a team that thrives on resilience, we'll apply more pressure than they can handle. We'll tear them apart before they can even recover. That way, no matter how tough they are, they won't have time to fight back." Karasuno's strategy meeting is complete. Bonus chapter, 300 Power Stones Chapter 40, Chapter 40, Match 1. The afternoon showdown begins after the morning match ended. The afternoon game was just around the corner. The tight schedule put immense pressure on the participating teams. Playing against 2 opponents in a single day was a true test of a team's resilience. If a team could win in straight sets, it wasn't too bad. But if the match dragged on, It would push the players to their physical and mental limits. However, this was likely the tournament's intention. Only through the flames of adversity could a team forge itself into something greater. And Izumi Tate was a team built for endurance. Despite the intense morning battle, their energy remained high. Izumi Tate's pre-match discussion inside the Izumi Tate team lounge. So, does anyone have any impressions of our opponent this afternoon? Irie Yuzuki, their libero, asked the room. Though he was their defensive anchor on the court, his personality was always lively and upbeat. Their captain, Kitamura Yuta, had been resting with his eyes closed. Upon hearing the question, he slowly opened them. No matter who the opponent is, we'll defeat them. Izumi Tate's victories were often 2-1 battles, almost always involving a comeback after losing the first set. But this also meant that they rarely had time to study their next opponent before a match. Haha. Don't be so serious, Kitamura-senpai. Irie Yuzuki grinned. I heard that they used to be a powerhouse team and even made it to nationals. But then they got weaker over time, and now they're barely worth mentioning. They're also known as the Fallen Powerhouse. A flightless crow. In the corner, Maruyama Hato, their setter, adjusted his glasses while scrolling through his phone. Oh. A fallen powerhouse? A flightless crow. So. Does that mean we'll have an easy time this afternoon? Irie Yuzuki's eyes lit up as he turned toward Maruyama. Humph. Don't celebrate too early. Maruyama sneered. Have you forgotten what kind of group Group A is? His tone turned sharp as he tapped at his screen. Karasuno made it through by eliminating Daitech and Aobajosai. And both were 2-0 sweeps. Even Kitamura Yuta, usually composed, raised an eyebrow in surprise. What? Didn't Aobajosai and Daitech just have an off day and let Karasuno slip through? Irie Yuzuki asked, still doubtful. You idiot. Look at the match schedule before talking. Maruyama shot him an exasperated glare. A team that makes it out of a group like that isn't one to be taken lightly. Kitamura Yuta stood up, stretching his arms. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. As long as we play with our full strength, even powerhouses like Shirei Terizawa aren't unbeatable. Yes, Captain. The match begins. Tweet. The two teams lined up at the net. Let's have a good match. The players exchanged bows, their gazes meeting across the court. Izumi Tate's aura was as steady as a mountain, ready to endure any storm. But Karasuno's presence was like a blazing meteor, burning with relentless momentum and an aggressive edge. Ha! Looks like Karasuno's going to dominate this one too. In the stands, a middle-aged man wearing a cap sneered as he analyzed the situation. Oh? What makes you say that? A younger spectator beside him looked puzzled. Humph. You must not have watched Karasuno play before. Their style is similar to Arigawa. They're an offensive powerhouse. And that type of team is exactly what Izumi Tate thrives against. Huh. The young man looked even more confused. But, didn't Izumi Tate just beat Arigawa this morning? Humph. That's just because Arigawa was too weak. The man let out a dismissive snort. When they face Karasuno, Izumi Tate is going to get crushed. The young man didn't seem convinced. He shot the man a wary look, then quietly moved a few seats away. Humph. Kids these days. No respect for experience. First serve, the impact begins. Tweet. The match was underway. Izumi Tate's ace, Shikata, stepped up to serve. Shikata. Start us strong. Yeah. He sent a sharp floaty NG serve over the net. But for Karasuno, this was nothing new. Tanaka read the trajectory instantly, stepping forward to receive. The ball sailed cleanly toward Kageyama. And for Kageyama, his first pass of every match always went to Akira. especially against teams they were facing for the first time. Because everyone knew if Akira's first spike landed cleanly, it would send a message. A message that would shake the opposing team's momentum from the very start. Kageyama made the set. Akira jumped. At the same time, Izumisate's three-man block formed in front of him. But this was where their lack of preparation showed. Had they studied Karasuno's matches beforehand, they would have known one critical fact. Do not challenge Akira's spike head-on. But now, it was too late for regrets. Kageyama, knowing the block was there, didn't send a high set. Instead, he set a normal height quick attack. Boom. The ball smashed into the blocker's arms like a falling axe splitting dead wood. The impact forced their arms apart. Then, the ball shot past them and crashed into Izumisate's libero, slamming into his outstretched arms, forcing them back at an awkward angle. And finally, with a thunderous sound, the ball hit the ground. Point, Karasuno. This, what just happened? Bonus chapter, 300 Power Stones. Chapter 41, Chapter 41, Match, 2. The impact of the spike sent a shockwave through the court, but Maruyama Hato and the others completely forgot about the soreness in their arms. They could only stare blankly behind them. They watched as the volleyball that had been slammed into the ground still retained enough force to bounce high into the air. Tweet. It wasn't until the referee's whistle blew that Maruyama Hato snapped out of his daze and muttered in disbelief, What just happened? Why did that happen? He was completely stunned. Haha. Just as I expected. Izumisate's defense can't stop him at all. In the audience, the uncle in the cap laughed triumphantly. Humph. What's so impressive about that? Isn't this common knowledge in Miyagi Prefecture? A young man sitting behind him scoffed at his words with a proud expression. Annoyed, the uncle in the cap turned around and retorted, predicting. I was predicting, you wouldn't understand, you little brat. Startled by his sudden reaction, the young man instinctively shrank back. What an ill-mannered kid. Focus on the next play. Seeing his teammates still in a daze, Kitamura Yuta frowned and spoke firmly. As the team's ace, he had been blocking in the front row just now, and although he was initially stunned, his role as captain helped him recover quickly. No matter who our opponent is, the game must go on. Pay attention to the tempo of the match. Even if they're strong, we still have a chance to win. The so-called tempo was Izumisate's signature play style. In their eyes, no matter how formidable the opponent, every offensive move had a pattern. If they could defend long enough, with unwavering resilience, then like a stone in a raging river, they would adapt to the current and withstand the relentless force of the water. The jagged edges of the stone would be worn down, its shape molded by the river's flow. By the time it was fully refined, no amount of rushing water, no matter how fierce, could move it. Izumisate's entire strategy relied on this unwavering defense. Maruyama Hato, now calm, took a deep breath. In the back row, Yuzuki Iri grinned and spoke playfully, Hey. No need to be so tense. It's not like we haven't faced teams with strong offenses before. This is the kind of play style we specialize in countering. Just hold off their fiercest attacks for a little while. Once their momentum slows down, they'll be sitting ducks. A few more rounds, and I'll definitely catch on of his spikes. Yuzuki's words instantly reignited Izumisate's spirits. That's right. A powerful offense. Wasn't that exactly the kind of team they were best at handling? One by one, the players turned to look at Akira across the net, their eyes burning with determination. Ahem. Why is this backfiring? Kageyama, looking at the opposing team's reactions, was dumbfounded. He quickly ran up to Akira and asked, Are they scared stiff or what? I have no idea. Akira muttered, equally confused. They ain't really be scared stiff, right? Maybe we should just keep going and see. Good idea. Kageyama nodded. If one spike wasn't enough, they just hit a few more. If they kept smashing through the defense, eventually, even the most resilient team will DNT be able to keep up. Tweet: with the last point secured, Karasuno now had the serve. After Yuzuki Iri received the serve in the back row, Maruyama Hato immediately jumped to set the ball. Izumi Tate wasn't known for its offense, but their attacks were steady. Their entire team radiated an air of stability. And against a strong opponent, Maruyama Hato instinctively passed to the most reliable person on their team, Kitamura Yuta. As their ace, Kitamura was responsible for most of Izumi Tate's offensive points. However, if he wanted to get past Akira's block, he was going to need more power. Instead, his spike was immediately stuffed right back onto their court. Karasuno scored another point. Their defense is just as strong. Kitamura Yuta's frown deepened. But Izumi Tate didn't seem too concerned. They had lost the first set too many times to count. Yet, in almost every match, they had come back to win the next two sets and take the game. To them, losing the first set was completely normal. But as the match progressed, it was Karasuno who first sensed something was wrong. Wait a second. Kageyama looked at the scoreboard, an uneasy feeling creeping up his spine. Karasuno 12-1 Izumi Tate. Am I seeing things? We have 12 points, and the Y only have 1. That's right, Akira muttered, equally puzzled. Izumi Tate was clearly way behind. And yet why did they look so confident? As if they were the ones leading the match. Why was that? Even the spectators began to notice something off about the game. If someone ignored the scoreboard and only focused on the players' expressions, they would definitely assume Izumi Tate was ahead. And leading by a huge margin. Each player carried an unwavering confidence, as if they knew they were winning. Hey! You guys are losing. Wake up! Have you lost your minds? Bonus chapter, 300 Power Stones White Heavy Checkmark Chapter 42, Chapter 42, Match, 3, Bonus chapter. No matter how strange the mood of the spectators in the stands was, it was impossible for the players of Izumi Tate to hear them. At the moment, they were fully immersed in the game. Hey! Are you okay, Irie? Compared to the calmness at the start, a trace of cold sweat had gradually formed on the forehead of Maruyama Hato. This number 7 from Karasuno was an absolute monster. Every time he blocked at the net, it was a test of both body and willpower. Playing in the midfield, Maruyama's arm had already started to show faint bruises. Just a little more time to adjust. In the back row, Yuzuki Irigi grit his teeth as he spoke. Compared to Maruyama, his situation was no better. Several times, he had attempted to receive Akira's spike, and now his arms were trembling slightly from the impact. You never truly understand how terrifying that spike is until you actually try to receive it. Don't get caught up in just this first set. Seeing the state of his teammates, Kitamura Yuta shouted loudly. More important than the result of this set is whether we can find a way to counter their attack. Pay attention. Don't focus too narrowly. Compared to the others, Kitamura was also struggling, but he understood that if they wanted to win, they needed to analyze the opponent's offense and find a way to counter it. This was the method that had won them countless victories in the past. Kitamura was convinced that they would win again this time. Yes. Hearing their captain's words, Irie and the others lowered their heads, feeling ashamed. Compared to their captain's mindset, they still had a long way to go. What exactly is happening on the court? Yukai had just returned from a bathroom break, and now he was utterly confused. Bewildered, he turned to Takeda, who was seated beside him. Didn't the match just start before I left? What day is it today? Takeda gave him a strange look before replying quickly. Ahem. June 3 RD. Coach Yukai, don't panic. I'm not panicking. In fact, I'm quite happy. Yukai responded, scratching his head. I'm just curious. How did we score so many points in the short time IWAS gone? Yukai looked completely baffled. Isn't this the quarterfinals? Weren't we supposed to be facing a tough opponent from Group H? Ahem. Takeda scratched his head, equally puzzled. I don't quite understand it either. Why is Izumi Tate playing like this? Are they holding back their strength? Holding back? Yukai's face practically spelled out disbelief. But if they lose this match, they're out of the tournament. This was a knockout competition. Losing a single match meant elimination. Well. The two men fell silent again, turning their attention back to the court. I guess we'll just have to watch and see. While the discussion continued off the court, the match itself remained completely one-sided. As the game progressed, the score difference between Karasuno and Izumi Tate only widened. By the time Karasuno reached 20 points, Izumi Tate had only managed to score 2. Isn't this supposed to be the quarterfinals? Why is this match so one-sided? Match point. Karasuno is about to reach match point. And Izumi Tate has only 2 points. This kind of match, even I could play in it. Exactly. Even if we were on the court, we wouldn't only score 2 points. Is this really the team that qualified from Group H? The skill gap between them and Group A is way too big. This is a complete mismatch. No matter how much the spectators talked, the gap in strength was undeniable. In the next few rounds, Izumi Tate failed to score again, losing the set in a flash. Tweet. That was a great performance from everyone. Back on the sidelines, Yukai praised the team. But he was at a loss for words. What exactly was going on with the other team? Yeah. That's right. Hinata chimed in excitedly. That was way too easy. I barely even got to hit the ball. This match wasn't even as intense as our warm-ups. Tsukishima added, sounding bored. Ha ha ha. They must have been intimidated by Tanaka's presence. Tanaka laughed proudly. Scared stiff, I tell you. Humph. Actually, they do want to win. Akira, who had been quiet, finally spoke with a smile. Huh? If they really wanted to win, they wouldn't have kept their faces stuck in front of your spikes. Kageyama turned to him, unimpressed. No, think about it. For them, the outcome of this first set doesn't really matter. It shouldn't affect their mentality at all. Saying this, Akira pointed toward the opposing team's bench. Everyone turned to see Izumi Tate's players, who were happily discussing strategy despite their crushing loss. Bonus Chapter, 300 Power Stones White Heavy Checkmark Chapter 43, Match, 4, Why? Why are they in such a good state of mind? Kageyama asked the question that everyone present wanted to ask the most. Huh? Why a good state of mind? Akira looked at everyone's doubtful gazes and said with a smile, it's simple. Because they always feel like they can win the game. What? Win the game? Hinata took a sip of water and continued to ask, but their performance just now was obviously really bad. Akira shook his head and said, for slow-starting teams, they have this confidence. Even though they lost the first set, they've experienced this so many times. So, losing the first set, has become their habit. In this situation, if they were to actually win the first set, they themselves wouldn't even be used to it. In the eyes of these players from Izumi Tate, they are confident they can recover in the next 2 sets and win. But, where does that confidence come from? Everyone was confused. 1 set, only 2 points. How can a team that barely scored have any confidence that they'll win the next 2 sets? To put it bluntly, they were completely dominated. Haha. Haven't you noticed? Akira chuckled before continuing, Izumi Tate is trying to adapt to our attack. Just like yesterday's match against Aobajosai. Even though Aobajosai's offense was strong in the beginning, once Izumi Tate adapted, their attacks became weaker and weaker. It became harder and harder to score. And in the end, Aobajosai lost the entire match. Huh. Hearing this, Daichi said worriedly, wouldn't that mean our next two sets are in danger? If we get caught in their tenacious defense, won't we end up just like Aobajosai? Haha. Hearing Daichi's words, Yukai chuckled and said confidently, don't worry too much, Daichi. Did you forget what I said this morning? We're going to overwhelm them with an attack that surpasses their ability to adapt. We need to defeat Itakayama before they can adjust and adapt to our attacks. Don't give them a chance to drag the game into a third set. Besides, he pointed at Akira and said to Daichi with a grin, how long do you think it will take Itakayama to adapt to his spikes? Hearing this, Akira smirked, even if we play 10 more matches, Tihei won't be able to stop my spikes. At the Izumi Tate bench, Captain Kitamura, do you think we can win the next set? Maruyama Hato asked the most composed player on their team, Kitamura Yuta. Haha. Hato. Even you doubt yourself. Kitamura Yuta chuckled and patted his shoulder reassuringly. But, the first set was 2. He wanted to say that the score difference in the first set was just too much. When Karasuno reached 25 points to win, they had only managed to score 2. And even now, after WHing and analyzing the opponent's play, they still couldn't figure out how to deal with their attacks. That spiker's power was just unreasonable. There wasn't even much technique behind it, it was just raw force that couldn't be stopped. How does someone so lean have such monstrous power? Don't doubt yourself. Maruyama Hato's words were suddenly cut off. Izumi Tate coach walked over and sternly said, if you don't believe in yourself, who else will believe in you? After all these matches, do you still think we can't recover in the next 2 sets? I'm sorry. Maruyama Hato's face turned red with embarrassment, and he quickly bowed his head. He suddenly realized how right the coach and captain were. If he didn't believe in himself, how could he expect anyone else to? How disgraceful. In the next set, I will fight with everything I've got. Maruyama Hato clenched his fists and declared loudly, we at Izumi Tate can still win. Good. That's the spirit. Seeing Maruyama Hato's determination, Kitamura Yuta nodded in approval. We at Izumi Tate can still win. After the break, the second set started. This set, it marks the start of our counterattack. Stay sharp. Defend against their attacks. Before stepping onto the court, Kitamura Yuta loudly rallied his teammates. At this moment, the fire in their eyes was burning brightly. They were determined to turn the match around. Hey! Izumi Tate seems to be saying something inspiring. Across the net, seeing their opponents getting pumped up, Kageyama commented with some concern. Akira glanced at him and chuckled, isn't this exactly what they did last time? Kageyama was momentarily stunned by Akira's words. Now that you mention it, you're right. Tweet. The referee's whistle blew, cutting T-Air conversation short. The second set began. This time, Karasuno served first. Hineda's serve was easily received by Izumi Tate back row. Maybe it was because of their mental shift, but Izumi Tate was in much better condition compared to the first set. Even Maruyama Hato's sets and Kitamura Yuta's spikes had more power behind them. And no one felt this more than Akira, who was blocking at the net. However, even if their teamwork had improved, there was still a gap before they could break through Akira's wall at the net. His blocking wasn't just the standard instinct-based reaction. The difference was that Akira's reflexes were far superior to an average player's. His nerve response was so fast that he had enough time to adjust mid-air while blocking. He could readjust his hand placement based on the hitter's swing. combined with his insane jump height. It was almost impossible for any spiker to get past him. Chapter 44, Match 5, Bang. Kitamura Yuda's spike was stopped again. Cheer up. Take the next point. In this second set, it felt like they had finally found their rhythm, and the fighting spirit of everyone on Izumi Tate became even stronger. Any team that reaches the quarterfinals has a solid foundation. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made it past the group stage. Izumi Tate is finally putting up a decent fight. Yeah, I thought they were sleepwalking in the last set. No wonder the audience was critical. Many teams had lost to Karasuno before Aobajosai, de Tech. Even some first-round elimination teams had gained respect from the crowd. Because during their matches, they truly displayed their own style. They showed the spirit of fighting until the very end. But Izumi Tate's first set could only be described as miserable. Humph. You don't get it? In the audience, a young man decked out in Izumi Tate supporter gear scoffed at the surrounding crowd. This is how Izumi Tate plays. They sacrifice the first set to figure out the opponent's play style. Then, in the next two sets, they completely crush their opponents. Sometimes, you must give up something to gain something. This is our Izumi Tate. A legendary team. They'll make it to the finals. They will defeat Shirei Terizawa and advance to nationals. Hearing his words, the people around him were stunned. Really? That sounds impressive. As the game continued, the situation on the court wasn't unfolding as smoothly as Izumi Tate had hoped. While they were slowly catching up, Karasuno still maintained a lead, even if their point gap wasn't growing as fast as in the previous set. What do we do? A drop of cold sweat trickled down Maruyama Hato's forehead. Just one more point. If we can just score one more point, number 7 will rotate to the back row. After playing for so long, Izumi Tate finally found an opportunity. And that was avoid Akira while he's in the front row. He was just too overwhelming. They had tried every attack strategy possible. None of it worked. As long as he jumped and spiked, Izumi Tate lost the point. He was so strong, it was suffocating. Now, Izumi Tate's only thought was to avoid confronting him directly. Once he moves to the back row, we can start our comeback. That was the belief shared by everyone on Izumi Tate. And they were working hard toward that goal. But that small breakthrough was proving to be difficult. No matter how they attacked powerful spikes, feints, quick attacks, soft touches. They had already tried everything. But no matter how well they disguised their attacks, they couldn't seem to fool Karasuno's number 7. He was always there, moving precisely into position to make the perfect block. Not only is his spike ridiculously strong, his blocking is just as insane. Maruyama Hato was on the verge of tears. Is there anything he can't do? Just when they were nearing despair, on the other side of the net, something unexpected happened. Kageyama's jump serve missed. The ball landed out of bounds. Izumi Tate scored a point. In that instant, their entire team nearly jumped in celebration. Finally. That number 7. He was finally rotating to the back row. No more terrifying spikes. No more suffocating blocks. Now, they could fight back against Karasuno. However, they failed to notice something. The moment Hinata rotated to the front row, his eyes lit up with excitement. Everyone, keep your focus. At that moment, Kitamura Yuta, ever the steady one, reminded them loudly. We're taking back the set. Even while trying to stay composed, Kitamura Yuta couldn't hide his excitement. If even he was this fired up, how could the others not be? With Izumi Tate's serve rotation, the match resumed. Akira had now moved to the back row. And Hinata, now in the front row, exchanged a glance with Kageyama. Immediately, he signaled back to H's setter. Tweet. When Izumitate's back row received the ball, the pass was quickly set up for Kitamura Yuta. Of course, in a situation like this, the most reliable player should take the spike. And Kitamura Yuta's eyes sparkled as he saw the set coming high way. Finally, there was no longer that suffocating block. He was about to score again. Izumitate was finally going to turn the game around. He swung his arm and smashed the ball with all his might. Sure enough. With no Akira at the net, his ball sailed right past Karasuno's blockers. But bang! Akira, now in the back row, easily received the ball with a perfectly timed slide. And he even flashed a smile at Kitamura Yuta. Oops. My bad. Kitamura Yuta clenched his jaw in frustration. Next time, I won't spike toward him. By now, Kitamura Yuta had developed a slight fear of Akira. The moment he saw him, he felt uneasy. His own spikes kept getting blocked, while his opponent's attacks completely ignored his defense. It was a one-sided beating. It's okay. Let's block their attack and take the point back. Maruyama Hato quickly reassured him. Right now, anyone could falter but not Kitamura Yuta, their most reliable player. Hearing Maruyama Hato's words, Kitamura Yuta took a deep breath and refocused on the match. Now, Karasuno's front row consisted of an orange-haired shorty and a tough-looking bald spiker. So, who's going to spike this time? The three blockers on Izumitate locked their eyes on the court, slightly crouching as they prepared for Karasuno's next attack. Bonus Chapter, 400 Power Stones Chapter 45, Chapter 45, Match, Complete, Setter, Setter. Who will the setter pass the ball to? Kitamura Yuta and the others constantly ran through all the possibilities in their minds. But the moment Kageyama touched the ball with both hands, shout! The volleyball turned into an afterimage, flying across the court in an instant. Bang! Before Kitamura Yuta and his teammates could even react, quick attack, score. What? At that moment, the three of them felt completely lost. That kind of spike. What the hell just happened? Why? Why did they just replace one monster with another? From the back row, Yuzuki's mouth hung open as he stared at the spot where the ball had landed, utterly dumbfounded. He hadn't even seen the ball's trajectory. What just happened? That set from their setter, it was too fast. They had originally thought that by coming into the second set, Izumitate would find their rhythm again. That THEY would figure out a way to counter their opponents. Launch a strong counterattack. Neutralize Karasuno's offense. But all those hopes crumbled in the face of Akira's overwhelming strength. Izumitate had found their rhythm and strengthened their play. They weren't weak by any means. But no matter what they did, their opponents were simply stronger. Even if they had returned to their peak condition, they were still being crushed by Karasuno. The only difference was that they were being crushed at a slightly slower pace. But the moment they saw Akira rotate into the back row, their extinguished hopes were reignited. As long as that ridiculously powerful number 7 wasn't in the front row, maybe they had a chance to turn the game around. And yet, the situation flipped again. Karasuno's lightning-fast attacks, they had definitely been practicing them for a long time. Once again, Izumitate was under immense pressure. In their previous matches, they had relied on the first set to analyze their opponent's attack's. Only after figuring out all of their opponent's offensive patterns could they counter in the next set and turn the tide. But this time, Akira's insane attacks and impenetrable blocks had made it impossible. Izumitate had only managed to score 2 points in the first set before losing it. They hadn't even rotated their positions once before the set had abruptly ended. They hadn't even gotten a chance to analyze Karasuno's back row attacks. How were they supposed to adjust? How could they possibly defend against this? So when Choyo and Kageyama unleashed another unstoppable quick attack, Izumitate's spirits sank to rock bottom. Is there still time? Can we still adjust? This was already the second set. In other words, Karasuno was at match point. If they lost this set, there would be no third set. Maruyama Hato felt utterly hopeless. That number 7 from earlier, he was beyond ridiculous. He had single-handedly dominated them for an entire rotation. Couldn't he at least give his back row teammates a chance to shine? This first set had been completely meaningless for Izumi Tate. They had essentially spent 25 points being obliterated by number 7. And they still hadn't found a way to counter him. Did they really have to use the second set just to adjust to Karasuno's quick attack combinations? But if they did that, there wouldn't be a third set. It was an impossible situation. Even Kitamura Yuta, who was always composed and optimistic, let out a deep sigh. He and Maruyama Hato exchanged glances, seeing the same helplessness in each other's eyes. Perhaps, in the end, they could only blame one thing: the fact that Karasuno's number 7 was simply too strong. They turned to look at Akira on the other side of the net, eyes filled with resentment. Akira, fully focused on the game, suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. What the? He followed the source of the ominous feeling only to see the opposing setter and ace attacker glaring at him with pure resentment. Those two, don't tell me they've developed some special kind of love for me. Akira shivered under their gaze, goosebumps rising on his neck. Looks like I'll need to be more careful in the future. Tweet. A whistle blew, cutting off the intense staring match between Kitamura Yuta and the others. The game continued. In the following plays, Izumi Tate remained completely passive. Faced with the insane quick attacks from Kageyama and Hinata, their defense was completely ineffective. And if they focused too much on Hinata, Kageyama would simply set to another attacker in the front row. Against Karasuno's tactics, Izumi Tate found themselves stretched too thin. That said, compared to Akira's blocks, Hinata's blocking was still lacking. Without Akira in the front row, Karasuno's defense was noticeably weaker. As a result, Izumi Tate was able to score more easily. But this led to one inevitable conclusion. As the teams continued trading points, Akira was quickly rotated to the front row again. And this time, it was the final straw that broke the camel's back. With the sound of a sharp whistle, the second set came to an end. Karasuno 2-0 Izumi Tate. They had successfully advanced to the semifinals. This afternoon's match was nowhere near as intense as the one this morning. That's to be expected. A team like Izumi Tate just isn't on the same level as Aoba Josai. Still, it's crazy to think Aoba Josai was so strong and still lost to Karasuno. Tomorrow's finals are going to be insane. I wonder if Karasuno can actually go all the way. I heard some big names are coming to watch the final tomorrow. Big names from Miyagi Prefecture. That's the rumor. Apparently, this year's final is going to be really unpredictable. Unpredictable. Do you seriously think there's a team out there that can beat Shirei Terizawa? Why not? Karasuno looks really promising this year. Then you're just being naive. You don't understand just how strong Shirei Terizawa is. A king like that doesn't get dethroned easily. After the match, the audience began filing out. Meanwhile, on the court. Top 4 in the prefecture. We actually made it this far. Daiichi's voice trembled with excitement. As one of Karasuno's veteran players, he couldn't contain his emotions. And then, Akira, don't leave just yet. As everyone was about to exit, Takeda-sensei came rushing over. A TV station from Miyagi Prefecture wants to interview you in a bit. Bonus chapter, 400 Power Stones Chapter 46, Chapter 46, Interview, 1, Total I need to update 8 chapter. I haven't uploaded any chapters from March 4, 2025 1/8 white heavy check mark. An interview? With me? Hearing this, Akira's face was filled with confusion. Yes, yes. The call came from the school. The TV crew is already outside the stadium, waiting for the interview to begin. Whoa. Hearing Coach Takita's words, Tanaka and Nishinoya shouted in excitement. Both of them turned to Akira with shining eyes. Being interviewed on TV. I've dreamed of this moment. Humph, isn't it just a local TV station? Tsukishima scoffed from the side, arms crossed. What's there to be excited about? Hearing his words, Tanaka and Nishinoya turned toward him angrily. You just don't get it? Exactly. A TV station is a TV station. It doesn't matter if it's local or national. It's a chance for everyone to see us. Akira, let us come with you. Yeah. Let us watch from the back. I want to be on TV too. Nope. Yukai interrupted them ruthlessly. Akira is going for the interview, and the rest of us need to stay behind and analyze our next opponent. Huh. No. Tanaka and Nishinoya let out exaggerated wails, but Daichi and Sugawara quickly dragged them away. Akira, make sure to mention your amazing teammates in the interview. Yeah. Especially your reliable libero. Akira chuckled as he watched them being pulled away, then turned to them and said, all right. I'll remember. Let's go, then. The TV crew is already waiting. Seeing everyone leave, Coach Takita reminded him again. Okay. When Akira and Coach Takita stepped outside the Sendai Gymnasium, they spotted the TV station crew waiting for them. As soon as they saw him, a female reporter's eyes lit up. She quickly hurried over from behind the camera, excitement evident on her face. Hello. Are you Akira? I'm a reporter from Miyagi Prefecture TV, Yumi. Nice to meet you. Akira was slightly taken aback by the sudden enthusiasm but quickly composed himself. Ah, hello. I'm Akira. After the initial surprise, he adjusted smoothly. He followed Yumi to the camera. Click. The red light on the camera turned on, signaling the start of the live interview. Hello to everyone watching from home. Yumi greeted the audience with a bright smile before continuing. Today, we have with us Karasuno High School's starting wing spiker Akira. Haha, hello, everyone. Akira waved briefly at the camera, his usual laid-back style shining through. But even such a simple gesture, combined with his sharp, confident expression, had an undeniable charm. Yumi's eyes sparkled as she observed him. But she quickly returned to her role and continued, this morning, Karasuno emerged victorious from Group A, also known as the Group of Death, defeating powerhouse schools like Date Tech and Aoba Josai. Akira, what do you think was the key to overcoming such strong opponents? For this kind of question, Akira naturally gave a composed response. Nothing special. We just worked together as a team and prepared well for our opponents. Despite this being his first public interview, Akira showed no nervousness or hesitation. Instead, he answered smoothly, speaking directly to the camera with confidence. Yumi's admiration grew as she watched. She then moved on to the next question. Before the match, Aoba Josai's Oikawa-san made some bold statements about facing your team. What are your thoughts on that? As she spoke, she handed the microphone to Akira. The day before, after the first round of matches, Aoba Josai had also been interviewed. As one of the most well-known players in Miyagi, Oikawa had naturally been the focus. During his interview, he had confidently declared, "Prepare yourselves, Karasuno. We're going to take you down." Now that Karasuno had defeated Aoba Josai and secured a spot in the semifinals, Akira's response was highly anticipated. Facing the camera, Akira simply smiled. I hope Aoba Josai works hard so we can meet again at Spring Nationals. I'll beat them again then. Yumi and the entire camera crew held their breath in excitement. In this industry, players who spoke boldly were a rare gem. Oikawa had long been known for his outspoken personality, which made him a favorite in media interviews. But now, Karasuno's rising star, Akira, was proving to be just as charismatic if not more. His confidence, combined with his talent and striking presence, made for a perfect interview subject. After a moment of stunned silence, Yumi quickly regained her composure and continued, "After this morning's match, you also played a key role in the quarter-finals, leading Karasuno to a decisive victory over Izumi Tate. In both matches, you were undeniably a major factor in Karasuno's wins. How do you feel about these games?" Akira felt slightly awkward being praised so openly but answered without hesitation, "Izumi Tate put up a strong fight, and I look forward to playing against them again in the future. Also," as if suddenly remembering something, Akira turned back to the camera and added, "It's not just me, everyone on the team played amazingly, especially our libero, Nishinoya-san. Tanaka-san as well. And, of course, our coaches and teachers who support us behind the scenes. Haha. Akira is very humble." Yumi laughed before moving to the final question. After today's matches, Karasuno has secured a spot in the semifinals. Tomorrow's games will be even more intense. What are your thoughts on the upcoming match? Akira grinned confidently. The team representing Miyagi at Nationals this year will be Karasuno. Hearing Akira's bold declaration, Yumi's eyes widened with excitement. She quickly followed up, "Even if you have to face Shirei Terizawa, the reigning champions of Miyagi? Do you believe you can defeat them?" Akira's expression didn't waver. "That's right." He nodded firmly. The camera crew exchanged glances, suppressing their excitement. This was the kind of player who could shake up Miyagi Prefecture's volleyball scene. A new star was rising in Karasuno. And his name was Akira. I'll upload remaining 7 chapters shortly. Chapter 47, Interview, 2, even Shirei Terizawa, the uncrowned king of Miyagi Prefecture. Do you have the confidence to defeat them? That's right. Akira nodded. For him, there was no need to hide his intent at this moment. Against opponents he had already defeated, a certain level of respect could be given. But for those yet to be faced, it was necessary to underestimate them strategically while taking them seriously tactically. And this seemingly arrogant statement? That, too, was a tactic. Goody. That's it for today's interview. Thank you very much, Akira, for taking the time to speak with us. Thank you. At the same time, let's look forward to an even more exciting match tomorrow. Yumi waved her thanks to Akira, who responded with a polite smile. With the conclusion of this short interview, Akira's task here was complete. After bidding farewell to Yumi, who was clearly infatuated, Akira was about to leave with Takeda Itatsu. But just as they reached the gymnasium doors, creak. The gym doors swung open from the inside. Stepping out was a tall, broad-shouldered young man in a white and purple uniform, his expression cold and his presence overwhelming. Kao. Ushijima Wakatoshi. Beside Akira, Takeda Itatsu stammered slightly. As a well-known figure in Miyagi Prefecture, Ushijima had appeared in newspapers, magazines, and television numerous times. His presence was impossible to ignore. Takeda immediately recognized him. Huh. Hearing his name, Ushijima's brow furrowed slightly as he turned toward them. I'm sorry. Perhaps intimidated by Ushijima's sheer presence, Takeda Itatsu instinctively flinched and bowed in apology. However, when Ushijima caught sight of Takeda's uniform specifically, the words Karasuno embroidered on the chest, his frown deepened. For a moment, he seemed to recall something, and an eerie silence settled over the scene. Haha. Takeda-sensei, it's nothing. At that moment, Akira stepped between them and spoke reassuringly. Ushijima, his train of thought interrupted, returned to the present. His gaze shifted to Akira, taking note of the Karasuno jersey he wore. He seemed as if he wanted to say something, but just then. Ushijima. A voice called from behind him. The TV station has been waiting for you. You're Latii. A man dressed in a Shirate Arizawa tracksuit, evidently a coach, hurried over, panting slightly. Yes, I understand. With that, Ushijima indifferently stepped past Akira and Takeda, heading toward his waiting obligations. So, do you two know Ushijima as well? The Shirate Arizawa coach turned toward them with mild curiosity. Yes. Everyone in the prefecture knows him. Takeda Itatsu glanced at Ushijima's retreating back, his tone carrying a hint of frustration. Now that he had a moment to reflect, he realized how embarrassing his earlier reaction had been. Oh? Karasuno. You're one of the teams competing this year. Noticing their uniforms, the coach seemed intrigued. That's right. We advanced to the semifinals this afternoon. Takeda Itatsu spoke with pride. Haha. That's impressive. The coach chuckled but then added with a smirk, but for tomorrow's semifinals, you'd best lose. Huh. Takeda Itatsu blinked, baffled. Before he could ask, the Shirate Arizawa coach continued, because if you keep winning, you'll face us in the finals. And after all that effort, you'll be crushed 3-0. That might just break your spirit. With that, he turned and walked off, following Ushijima. What? But we, Takeda Itatsu started to protest, but the coach spoke without turning back, no need to say more. We don't care who the opponent is. Because, no matter who it is, they can't beat us. Watching him leave, Takeda Itatsu, normally mild-mannered, flushed red with anger. He turned to Akira, just about to speak, but Akira's expression remained unreadable, his black eyes steady. There's no need to let an opponent's words shake you, Takeda-sensei. Akira chuckled softly. Getting provoked so easily? It seemed Takeda still had room to grow in composure. Just like I said in the interview. It's just talk. What truly decides victory or defeat is what happens on the court. At Akira's words, Takeda seemed to snap out of his frustration. The emotional turmoil left an impact, but now, he simply looked determined. Let's go, Akira. It's time for the game. Watching him walk ahead, Akira sighed slightly, then followed. By the time they arrived at the stands, the current match had just hit a timeout. How's it going? Akira took a seat beside his teammates, eyes locked on the court. It's neck and neck. They're definitely top-8 material. They're tough. Asahi replied grimly. The second set was reaching its climax. Josenji 25-24 Dwaichi. Josenji was on match point. Dwaichi had taken the first set, establishing their status as the Group G seed. But if Josenji took this set, they would force a tiebreaker. Josenji had just called a timeout to regroup. Tweet. The whistle signaled the end of the timeout, and both teams returned to the court. Josenji was up to serve. Terushima. Make it count. No problem. As always, Josenji exuded a lively, playful atmosphere. Boom. A powerful straight serve rocketed across the court. Dwaichi's back row players rushed to receive it, but at the last second, the ball changed direction. The unpredictable trajectory sent it slamming onto the boundary line. Point, Josenji. With that, Josenji had secured the second set. The match was now tied 1-1. This battle for the Final Four was about to head into an intense tiebreaker. 2/8 White Heavy Checkmark Chapter 48, Chapter 48, Analysis. As the whistle sounded, both sides of the match returned to the field. Are there any defining characteristics of these two teams? Looking at Yukai's furrowed brows on the side, Akira couldn't help but ask curiously. Hearing his words, Yukai turned his head and said, Daiichi's characteristics are obvious. They're a disciplined team. Both their individual skills and teamwork are strong. But they don't have any standout players. Josenji, on the other hand. At this, Yukai frowned slightly and looked at the court. Josenji's players are really something. At that moment, Hinata, standing beside them, chimed in. His eyes were already shining with excitement. That ball just now, the one that almost hit the floor. That guy hooked it back with his foot. And actually saved it? Yeah. Yukai added. Their play style is unusual. Solid. But even with that steadiness, there's an unrestrained quality to it. I'd guess, their captain plays a major role in this. As he spoke, Yukai pointed at a tall player from Josenji. Terushima. That was a great play. Okugaku, Josenji's setter, called out to a teammate with a Mohican-style haircut. Haha. Okugaku-senpai. That was just basic stuff. No need to hype me up. Okugaku rolled his eyes before slapping Terushima on the shoulder and saying loudly, but you also made some ridiculous mistakes earlier. Don't think I didn't see them. Haha. Looks like Terushima's getting scolded again. His teammates laughed mercilessly at T-Hisin. And you too? Okugaku turned towards Habata and Izaka. No need to laugh at him. You both messed up plenty as well. Make sure you focus in the next set. Yes, sir, they chorused. Looking at the chaotic group before him, Okugaku CG sighed, rubbing his forehead. Josenji was known for their straightforward, calm play style. Their cheer banner, boldly declaring solid and strong, was a testament to that. But ever since these second years came in with their wild energy, the team's style had shifted. The once orderly court had become their playground. Still, under the firm guidance of Okugaku and Yuto Kamiki, another third year, they managed to keep things in check. But what would happen after they graduated? What then? Thinking about the uncertain future, Okugaku couldn't help but sigh. He exchanged glances with Kamiki before both looked away. Maybe. For Josenji, change wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Lost in thought, he was jolted back to reality as the referee's whistle echoed again. The third set was about to begin. Calm Josenji. Hearing Yukai's words, Akira was puzzled. In his mind, wasn't Josenji always the team that played with flashy, free-spirited energy? But as he looked at the court, he began to understand. So at this point, Josenji's third years haven't graduated yet. A different version of Josenji. Intrigued, Akira observed the match more closely. Just as Yukai described, strong, structured, powerful. When defending against Daiichi's attacks, their formation was organized and disciplined. And when they counterattacked, it was a methodical, step-by-step execution. Even their spikes seemed to stamp deep footprints into the court. A display of sheer athletic strength. But if you watched long enough, you'd notice something else beneath their disciplined execution. Another layer existed. Almost every attack revealed a different energy. Some of the second years kept attempting experimental, unconventional shots. Yet, every time they tried to push beyond the system Josenji's setter, Okugaku, reined them in. Each of his sets maintained a steady rhythm, restricting any overly wild movements. Josenji is a team full of contradictions. Akira suddenly voiced his thoughts. Huh. Kageyama turned to him. If we play against Josenji tomorrow, can we use this to our advantage? At this, the others turned their attention to Akira. Not yet, he shook his head. Despite their opposing styles, they're still unified. That setter captain of theirs. He's incredibly skilled. He's balancing two different play styles and blending them effectively. Akira gestured towards the court. Take that main spiker with the strange haircut. He's the type to break the mold. Just now, when he faced the blockers, if the set had been better, he probably would have attempted a full power straight line spike against them. And the other second years have a similar mentality. They don't necessarily want to coordinate. They just play in their own style. Wouldn't that make them easy to deal with? Hearing this, Kageyama's eyes lit up. Not really. Akira shook his head, dashing Kageyama's expectations. Josenji has two key players keeping them grounded. Their setter captain and another stable main spiker. The setter controls the game's pace, keeping it structured. And that main spiker serves as a model for the others. The more reckless players don't need perfect teamwork. They just follow his example while the setter dictates the rhythm. This. Everyone fell silent, trying to process Josenji's unusual dynamic. Akira took another glance at the court before suddenly standing up. Let's go. There's nothing more to watch. Daiichi doesn't stand a chance against a serious Josenji. Our opponent tomorrow morning will be them. At first the others hesitated, then got up and followed him. So what's our strategy for tomorrow's match? Against such a solid opponent, there's no shortcut. We'll just have to beat them head on. 3/8 White Heavy Checkmark Chapter 49, Chapter 49, interview aired and recensions as soon as everyone got off the bus back in Karasuno. Tanaka and Nishinoya couldn't wait to shout and run towards the office. Interview. 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 Seeing this scene, Daiichi was also a little curious. Akira, what did you say during the interview? Just some ordinary questions and answers, Akira replied with some uncertainty. The TV station probably won't air all of it. They'll likely cut some parts too. Let's go see it too. Takeda Idetsu suggested from the side. He had now recovered from his earlier low spirits. Right after our interview, I ran into Ushijima Wakatoshi. What? That ace of Shirei Terizawa? Yeah. His presence is intimidating. Everyone continued talking as they walked toward the office. Before they even got close, Tihei could hear the dramatic cries of Nishinoya and Tanaka from inside. AHH. It's starting. It's starting. Everyone perked up and hurried into the room, gathering in front of the TV. This morning, Karasuno High School emerged victorious from the group of death, defeating multiple strong opponents. What was the key to overcoming such powerful teams? Nothing special, Akira answered on screen. I think our teamwork was better, and we had a solid understanding of our opponents in advance. Hearing THs, everyone turned to look at Akira. Oh. Akira's answer is actually so humble. Hinata said in surprise. Tsukishima smirked and added teasingly, I expected you to say something like, we're just stronger than them. These weak opponents. Just crush them directly. No need for any special strategy. Akira's face twitched. Am I really that kind of person to you? Haha. Don't worry, there's more to come. Takeda Idetsu chuckled. What? Hearing this, everyone quickly turned back to the screen. Before Tihei match, Oikawa-san from Aobajosai made a few comments about Karasuno. What do you think about that? That bastard Oikawa. At the mention of his name, everyone instinctively clenched their teeth. They had seen his interview the night before and knew exactly what kind of comments he had made. It felt great to eliminate Aobajosai this morning. Yeah. Akira, you'd better have clapped back at him in this interview. On screen, the reporter handed the microphone to Akira. I hope the Aobajosai players meet us again in the Spring High Tournament, he said with a confident smirk. I'll beat them again. Everyone watching was silent for a moment, then erupted into laughter. Haha. Oikawa must be fuming right now. Yeah. He's probably losing his me-and-d over this. Imagining Oikawa sulking, Nishinoya and Tanaka were the happiest of them all. Because of Oikawa's popularity, they had always been envious of the attention he received. But now, they were finally getting some revenge. Nice one, Akira. That response was perfect. It's exactly the kind of thing Nishinoya-senpai and I would say. The two clapped Akira on the back approvingly, grinning ear to ear. The others shook their heads at their exaggerated reactions. As the interview continued, the reporter asked, after your performances in the morning and afternoon matches, what are your thoughts on the team's overall performance? It's not just me. The whole team played really well, Akira replied. Like our libero, Nishinoya-senpai. And Tanaka-san AI. And of course, our coaches and teachers, who have been supporting us from behind the scenes. Whoa! Nishinoya and Tanaka immediately jumped up in excitement. Akira mentioned my name. He mentioned mine too. That means Nishinoya is going to be infamous all over Miyagi Prefecture. Tanaka too. Watching their ridiculous excitement, everyone sighed in exasperation. Akira, you actually went out of your way to mention them? Sugawara asked, looking slightly amused. Haha. Sugawara, you're just jealous of us. Nishinoya said proudly. Yeah. You're jealous. Tanaka agreed, nodding vigorously. Jealous? Of you too? Sugawara deadpanned. I swear, I really want to open your heads and see how your brains work, he muttered in frustration. As the conversation continued, the on-screen interview approached its final question. Now that Karasuno has reached the semifinals, what are your thoughts on tomorrow's game? Akira's confident smile appeared on the screen. The team representing Miyagi Prefecture in the national tournament this year will be us, Karasuno. Even Shirei Darizawa, the uncrowned kings of Miyagi. Do you think you can defeat them? Of course. Akira answered without hesitation. Akira is right. Down with Shirei Darizawa. We're going to be champions. Tanaka and Nishinoya shouted in excitement again, their enthusiasm at an all-time high. Enough. Daichi intervened. Instead of thinking about the championship, let's focus on tomorrow's match first. Jozenji isn't an opponent to be taken lightly. If we underestimate them and lose, that'll be the real embarrassment. At Daichi's warning, the atmosphere calmed down. Yeah, you're right. Just as everyone was about to leave, Akira suddenly spoke up. Nishinoya-senpai, I have something I want to discuss about tomorrow's game. If anyone else wants to join, feel free. Hearing this, the team members grew curious. Could Akira have some new insight into the game's strategy? Intrigued, they all followed him toward the Karasuno volleyball gym. As they walked, Akira smiled and said, after tomorrow morning's match, we'll be facing Shirei Darizawa in the afternoon.